Hello and welcome to the Sunday Night Social on Hughes of the World. And tonight we're joined by Ed Kimberley, who is a counsellor down in Worcester, and Mike Dix, who is a cartoonist down in Brightonia.
Very true.
How's it going? Was it sunny today where you are? Because it was pissing down with rain all day today.
It's been lovely down here.
Has it? Oh, lovely.
It's been 50-50 here.
There you go.
Has it been a bit shit but a bit nice at the same time?
Yeah, it's been a bit crap but bearable.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah. I went to Alnwick Castle yesterday.
I saw that.
Alnwick, but they pronounce it Alnwick for some reason, just to confuse American tourists. It was really nice. We went to the gardens there. They had like a cherry blossom orchard, right? And they have like swings, like 2-person bench swings, like between the trees, and you can sit with your loved one, and you can be in the shower of cherry petals, I guess, whatever. Cherry blossom. It's really nice, but it's only for 2 weeks out the year, and if you don't get there in those 2 weeks, there's only a few little blossoms left. It was really nice. It was very nice. Anyway, so yes, end of the weekend. What's been happening? Anyone seen any good movies this week?
Nope.
Oh. No
one's
sorry.
seen The Devil Wears Prada 2?
No.
Hey, little top tip, right? Listen, if you want to watch Devil Wears Prada 2, don't watch the Mark Commode review of it, because he literally tells you everything that happens in the film.
Does he?
He goes, in the first scene, this Emily Blunt meets up with Shakespeare's wife, Anne Hathaway, and this is blah blah blah, and then in the last scene, and I'm like, this is a review for people thinking of going to see the movie, and you're literally telling them.
Did he like it or not?
I don't know. I didn't get that far. Stop watching it. Because stop telling me what happens. I just want to know if it's good or not. Right. Spoilers. Anyway, Pet Pygmalion says, I was in Liverpool today. Good job.
Ooh,
good job, Pygmalion. We've got Person and Pace and he's saying, hey, Chris. And Chris saying, hey, Person. I like that. People in the chat having a chat. Saz is in the chat. We've got Vendetta 9000, which is like way cooler than just Vendetta. We've also got L Butterfly Effect. We've got Graham Price in the chat as well, and Diz, lovely Diz, One Angry Pagan as well, and Saz, and others. If you'd like to join, Simon is in there. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button and wait for approximately 1 minute. And also give us a thumbs up if you like, or if you like the alien out of Hail Mary, give us a thumbs down. It doesn't matter. It's all interaction. This is why they say when you're making a TikTok,
bump my fist.
Yeah, bump my fist. Fist my bump. Even better.
Fist my bump.
Fist my bump.
Fist my bump.
Fist my bump. But apparently, when you're making a video for TikTok or for Instagram or YouTube, right, always put a mistake in it. If the figure that you're supposed to be giving is 32 million, say 31 million, because then more people will interact with it to correct you. So you've got to pick something that doesn't matter, but people get really pedantic about.
If I ever lower myself to the level of making a TikTok video, I will remember that fact.
So, like, you call Scottish people Welsh or something, and you'll get lots of comments.
Yeah. I'm about to mime along to a song and do a dance 31.2 million times.
Yes.
Oh, you got that. Yeah.
So I was doing the morning show this morning about how not only has Trump fucked up everything for the fossil fuel lobby who want to destroy the planet as soon as possible, he seems to have derailed that plan. He also seems to have derailed the whole thing of pulling his troops out of Germany, and it's all sort of backfiring because all the European countries are going, all right then, bye.
I mean, it's so on brand for Trump to just not succeed in doing anything right. I mean, this is the guy who managed to bankrupt a casino, famously.
Yes, more than once.
Can you imagine all the countries in Europe where housing prices are going through the roof, going, oh, that's good land. Yeah, we'll totally take over your bases. Thanks very much, lads.
Thank you. Cheers.
I thought it was going to take more effort to get rid of you, honestly.
Don't hit the door on the way out. But yeah, Trump is like fucking over is the people who funded him to come in. And there was an article on the BBC today about how actually Ukraine's doing very well out of what's happening in Iran. Because everyone's like, shit, now all the focus is on Iran. America stopped selling military weapons and equipment and intelligence. But Ukraine has just opened up a very, very, very lucrative market selling drone technology to the Middle East. It's like, quit in, guys.
Ukraine have worked out that you don't need to shoot $1 million missile to shoot down a 1,000-pound drone.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you've worked out that tech, you're several steps ahead of America on the tech tree at this point.
It's fantastic.
I noticed, I was reading a report that Britain has tried out a new interceptor called the Skyhammer in Jordan, basically. So, like, it's going to do our arms business. The world are good, this business as well.
Cool.
And also, we've been working with Ukraine on the drone technology. So, like, the whole thing, I've always said Ukraine is it's the Spanish Civil War equivalent to the Second World War. We get to practice playing war with robots now. That's what we're doing. And we drain Russian resources to make it difficult for them to fight any more wars in Europe because they're losing men, machinery, and money all the time. So Germany is quite happily sitting there going, yeah, bye, America. Cheers. We're fine. We've also just doubled our expenditure on military spending. I'm not saying it's all good that we're, planning for wars in Europe, but it seems like Russia is much less of a threat militarily if Ukraine can hold them off like that. And if Ukraine can make money out of defending the Middle East and gets access to their oil instead of Russian oil, basically, the whole thing, Trump may go down in history as having reshaped the world in Europe's favor again, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done something kind of terrifying when you think about it from a world history perspective, because for the first time in basically recorded history, not only is Europe arming up, but we're not pointing the guns at each other, which is definitely, I mean, I won't say it's perfect, but it's progress.
I'm fairly certain we've still got a couple of things pointing at the French just in case, but
I don't know. It does feel interesting, doesn't it, when you think about the fact that if America is not really that keen on NATO and not that keen on defending European allies, we are to a great extent benefiting from the French nuclear umbrella, probably more so than we are from the American one.
The French completely got NATO and their nuclear program completely right in the 1960s. We should have listened to them. We just ended up sucking up to America for 40 years, and we shouldn't have been doing it.
It's like
the French went, we cannot trust the Americans with the finger on our nuclear button. Yeah. We cannot trust the Americans to command the armies of Europe, basically. So the French went, bye, we're going to go and do this ourselves. And we just kept going, hello, America, how much of your stuff should we keep buying?
The French made very good decisions on nuclear power as well.
Yeah.
That makes it a lot easier to transition away from gas and oil.
It's also not unconnected. You need to have a reasonable nuclear program to make nuclear bombs, don't you? So.
Charles de Gaulle is that guy in heaven going like, yeah, called it, bro. Called it.
Yeah. What, the man who stopped us from joining the EU twice?
Well, I'm not saying he called us on everything.
Because he said it'll cause too much trouble. That's what he said. He said, don't let them. Well,
listen,
EEC back then.
I'm just saying.
Don't let them in. They'll cause too much trouble.
Was he wrong?
No, that's what I'm saying. He's right. He's right. That's my point. But and Vendetta says, fuck Gilead, which is the new name for America. Love the Frenchies. Yeah. How popular is Trump amongst the military oh, hang on. That disappeared as I was reading it. Thanks a lot. You make me look very silly. Anyway, but yeah, it's Ed, it's local elections this week.
Are you up for election, Ed?
No, I am not up for election, much to the disappointment of some reform people who keep telling me...
Does this mean you're a dictator now?
Yeah, no.
Dictator in Worcester.
So there are people who think that elections have been cancelled in Worcester and are getting very uppity about that. And it's like, we weren't ever scheduled to have local elections. They weren't cancelled. It's like, it's not our turn. So, wait, if you want to get rid of me, wait.
You've been threatened with legal action.
So say again.
Have you been threatened with legal action from refuck?
Oh, not lately.
But you have in the past, haven't you?
Oh yeah. I was getting...
Femi, our mate Jack Dart. I know at least 3 people have been threatened with being sued by refuck.
Yeah, but I mean, in my case, it was like a cease and desist letter because
Alex, it's Alex from Political X. How you doing, Al? You all right, mate?
How are you?
You look very dapper this evening. Yeah. We were just discussing the election this week and the battering Labour's going to take. Sorry, Ed.
Look, you look at the polling numbers, and you look at the seats that are up and the spread of what's available. And yeah, I think one of the points I would make right at the outset is reform. While their polling isn't as amazing as it might have been a couple of months ago, they're still in pole position right now. I think there's a point that I would really want to drill in on, which is that Reform really badly wanted this set of local elections in 2026. Why? If they were going to do well in 2027, if they were going to do well in 2028, why did they need to go to the wall to even pay for legal action against the government to demand local elections this year if they were so confident about next year or the year after? And I think that's always been one of the questions I've wanted to ask.
Just been a bit impatient.
Yeah,
ADHD.
Possibly. But the thing is, like,
I want it now.
The authorities that are up for this year, like, for example, Redditch Borough Council, just across the way from me, they're up this year. They're not going to exist in another 12 months. They're electing councillors who will be out of a job in about 12 months. They'll be on an authority that's getting wound up. How does this benefit Reform, ultimately, to get a bunch of new people elected into office who are then going to be a liability, much like their council group on Worcestershire County right now, who are looking like they could knife their second leader in just a couple of weeks? Like,
Wow.
seriously. Do they want more Reform councillors? If I was Nigel Farage, and if I was thinking that I had a shot at number 10, I wouldn't be looking to get more councillors right now.
Why aren't Labour, right? I'm going to do this whole thing. I'm like, why aren't Labour better at comms? But seriously, Ed, why aren't they going, look at Worcestershire, where your bills have gone up, your council tax, one of the most regressive taxes there is, the council tax has gone up by the most in the country, 9%. They had to apply to the government to be able to go above 5%. Why aren't they putting that out? This is Worcestershire. Worcestershire's now paying 9% more for their, don't be like Worcestershire.
Yeah. I mean, look.
Can I try and Ed? I'd like to pick your brain on this, right? I think you're all right about this stuff. I think we should be talking about the good things that we do. I was just reading a load of stuff about how Brighton Labour Council has been doing a lot of things that they promised to do in the last election, and they're not even up for election this year. They're still putting out this stuff to say we're doing all these things. I genuinely believe that what Farage needs is one newspaper headline and a BBC story that says Reform roll through the counties and take over the Red Wall. And then they can sit tight for 3 years and wait for the general election. Because I don't think most people pay any attention to the effect on their council tax, to the state of their... They moan about all these things, and they moan about them when they're fixed and when they're not fixed. But essentially, they don't make the connections most of the time. And I think, if you take yourself out of the political wonks like us, and you look at...
Who are you calling a wonk?
I was calling Alex Edward and myself. I called you a political wank.
Okay, good on
you changed the letter there sneakily, and you thought we wouldn't notice. I mean, look, I've got to come back on this one because it goes back to the story I think you might have actually been there for the stream when I said this, so you don't get a reprieve from this, Mike. You're getting doubly called out, my friend. Okay. So the point I made was I was out on a litter pick not long ago, and I got approached by a family who's and they were saying, like, what party are you from? And I said cautiously, Labour. And it's like, oh phew, we thought you might have been Reform. And it's like, the thing that they immediately came back to me on was the 9% council tax rise in Worcestershire. Now, I would say, don't underestimate how much people are paying attention to single issues like that. At the end of the day, the thing that voters are paying attention to when they decide how to vote is generally pretty simple and fairly straightforward, like if you're deciding that mainstream vote. The other point I was going to make, though, is we talk about the public like that is one thing. The public isn't a monolith. The public is many things. The public is many people. Most people don't pay a lot of attention to politics, but there are broadly sort of like 2 or 3 different strands to it. The people that Reform are appealing to most of all are the ones who pay the least attention to mainstream news and probably the most attention to GB news, and who don't really pay much attention to politics at all. So you're right. They're not going to notice a lot of Labour achievements right away. That's just not going to happen. And I think one of the things that I've observed for myself again and again and again, which is a major challenge for Labour, and no doubt is the thing that's got them jumping around like a cat on a hot tin roof, is literally anything Labour does right will get shredded in the media. instantly. Renters' rights. Oh no, the landlords are all going to sell up and there's going to be a housing shortage. The bricks and mortar will combust. However, will we survive? Or you can say a new bill of workers' rights. You're going to ban sacking people off because I don't know, like you're going to ban certain unethical work practices. I'm going to go for 0 hours contracts, which I hate, by the way, and have hated for 10 years. Oh no, all the employers will sack their 0 hours employees. It's going to make loads of people unemployed. And it's like they keep finding an angle to try and basically say that we should enjoy the kicking that the Tories were giving us. Actually, it was a good thing. You liked having boot treads all over you.
This is nothing new, is it? Because when they brought in minimum wage, it was like, oh, the businesses are going to go bust because of minimum wage. And the same people who were whining about minimum wage were the same people who were pushing Brexit, which was going to make people poorer and screw over more businesses than giving people a living wage or even a minimum wage.
I mean,
they love doing that.
It's the bedrock of right-wing economics.
You, Les.
Please enjoy the kicking more. We're going to keep kicking you until you like it.
Yeah. Les, and 15-minute cities. Quick, let's go out and burn down the observatory so this never happens again. It's like, what? What's the problem? Well, you know, my car, I had to pay more for my car. You got an electric car? Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. No, it is the problem. So it's like the question you're asking me is, why aren't Labour better at comms? I'm going to say
too
something
many words.
nice.
Why aren't Labour better?
Yeah. But I do think, in their defence, and I'm going to say one thing in their defence before I then go on to talk about the ways in which they're crap. in one sense, my heart does go out to whoever is designing and deciding Labour social media, because they've got the toughest job in the world right now, because they've got to come up with a message that cuts through despite the absolute barrage of bad faith talking points that are being thrown at them 24/7. There is nothing they can say.
Refuck are bad at running councils. Look at Worcestershire. You know, case in point.
So what you've got to do, and this is where I've been constantly trying to work out with my own social media, how do you do this as a Labour person?
Alex, how would you do it? I know you're not Labour, but what would you say to Labour?
I've been a Labour member in the past.
We need help.
I know you do.
Can I? Great. Just before you start, Alex, can you call out Sarah Davis?
Yes, thank you. Sarah, thank you very much for the super chat. It's very kind of you. Hope Mike's flat hunting is going okay. You've been hunting flat tires.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that, because I could have a go at Ed about the cut-off point on the Renters' Right Act that does cause people problems. Basically.
Why aren't people being prosecuted for taking advantage of that? Shouldn't that have been written into the bill? You know, like this thing with Farage getting his 5 million before he became an MP. He can't say, before I became an MP, because you've got to declare 12 months up to becoming an MP in case some foreign crypto person decides to give you a bunch of money to say, hey, why didn't you run as an MP?
It's one of the awful things about making rules is that you generally can't make them retrospective, or at least it's very risky to do that. And so that is one of those ongoing headaches. And there was an absolute rush of landlords doing the landlord thing of rushing to take advantage of the loophole in the rules before it was closed. I mean, it's just the amount of moustache twirling I have seen from the landlord community since this bill went through is just absolutely staggering. I put a post up about
Ed, I need to stress, just on a personal level, that my landlord waited till the last minute and took advantage of that deadline and issued a Section 21 order and a Form 6A for me to be evicted.
When does he come in?
It came in on the 1st of May.
Did it?
Deadline. And I genuinely received the email and the letter from them while I was in hospital, having my ass chopped out, basically. So
being treated for cancer.
And I'll be honest with you, in terms of the way that these stories play out, I contacted The Guardian, the Argus, the BBC, nobody interested.
You're kidding me.
Because I think there were other stories.
Landlords.
But this is the thing, and there was coverage during the day, right? LBC did coverage during the day, but the
call in James O'Brien.
The point really is that it did cause that problem, and I think it's a comms problem, and I think it's a way of introducing it. If I'm honest with you, I think they introduced the law on the 1st of May because it's not a tax period necessarily. It is for some people, April basically, but I honestly think they chose International Workers' Day as the day to throw it out there, basically.
Interesting.
And I think that delay gave the landlords all these advantages, because my landlord's a lazy rich bastard And he's caved into the estate agent, and it's the estate agents that have been putting the pressure on all the landlords. I can despise landlords, but to be honest with you, I know a lot of reluctant landlords. I know an awful lot of people that have ended up with a spare house, and we can't deny that.
Hate to end up with a spare house. God, that must be awful.
But honestly,
hang on, I've got my tiniest violin in the world in here somewhere. Hang on.
People get divorced, buy a house, find new love, get remarried. You end up with 2 flats. It's just life. It just happens. So, and those people either hang on to those flats or they sell them or whatever. Basically,
I remember that great 80s sitcom, My Two Flats.
I mean, I think it's sort of one of the.
The problem is, I'm being evicted. I am literally having a meeting with the council next Tuesday with the homeless division, right? And I don't think this is going to be a problem. I think we're going to solve it. I know Maria's in the chat, and we talked a long time today about our plans for how we can fix this. It's going to be fine. But the issue is that there is going to be a lot of people affected like that, and a lot of stories will come out about that, and a lot of issues are going to happen in the housing market in the next 6 months because of the greed of landlords and estate agents.
Yeah.
And the reality of all of that is that is all going to be blamed on Labour. All right, whether the Renters' Right Act is good or not, and it is good. Right. The problem is I can hold these 2 thoughts in my head. I am very happy that act is coming in, and it's making landlords think twice about being wankers, basically. That's the reason.
That's what they should call
the reason they're doing it. They're putting all these houses up for sale. A friend of mine who works at the Guardian.
Don't be a wanker.
Yeah.
Friend of mine who works at the Guardian said that what she'd heard, basically from her contacts, is that the government is literally trying to use this to get private landlords out of the marketplace as much as possible.
I mean,
put those houses on the market and bring houses down in price.
Do they want corporations running it instead?
Well, what they'll end up with is housing associations basically picking up the slack for all.
There is the council, the Corpy, they could run it.
They've got to buy the property, haven't they? And that means they've got to have the money to be able to buy.
There's thousands of empty properties across the UK. If you leave it empty for 6 months, you obviously don't want it. We'll take it for not.
They can, and there are provisions in the Act to help councils do that. But what will happen, I guarantee you, just because of the way everything bloody happens with government, is that the corporations and housing associations and companies effectively run on a certain basis will end up buying up all these properties and renting them out.
I think there is something to sort of the bigger picture, the problem behind this, and just let me give second-hand expertise. I think there are better economists to try and sort of analyze this problem, but fundamentally there is a problem with the way that our housing market works right now, which is the idea that housing should always go up in price. And if you look at the charts, if you look at the data, this problem started approximately in the 70s. The price of housing became uncoupled from people's incomes in the 70s. That's when it began. It became noticeable in the 80s. It became foundational to the way the market worked in the thousands, and it became absolutely ridiculous in the 2010s, the 2020s. That's the point at which you end up with housing that costs like 13 times the median income, something of that sort. I haven't got the stats memorized, but we're talking in a ludicrous separation between incomes, average incomes, and the housing that people need to live in. And that is basically because we have built an entire market, an entire financial system on the bedrock that property prices must always go up. And because that was the assumption, that has become kind of a creed, and nothing that can bring down house prices is allowed to be a good thing. It's one of the major reasons why our planning system has been so NIMBY favoring for such a long time, because if you build more housing, it'll bring down housing prices. Can't have that. If we regulate landlording, if we create more rights for tenants, that could conceivably bring house prices down. That would be terrible, apparently. If we had rent controls like used to exist, that would be terrible. It would bring prices down. Oh no. And I think that in a sense what the government is having to manage is the two things at once. How do you recouple incomes and house prices so that housing isn't simply an investment asset, but is in fact a thing that exists to house people?
A bare necessity.
Yeah, how do we get it back to being used in that way without completely shattering the market in one go and giving no time to adjust?
Semantics.
Well, and you do something like the Norwegians do, which is to get a catchy catchphrase of roof first.
Yeah.
and you solve the problems in society by saying everybody deserves a roof, and we will make sure that happens.
And we say, look, we are up for private landlords to have their own little market, and they can compete against each other on quality and cost and all that kind of stuff for luxury homes, luxury apartments. And that's the way we put it across, luxury flats. That's what it is. If you want to be a private landlord, it's got to be a luxury.
But if
rather
we're talking
than
about
a necessity, which is what it is for a lot of people. So no, you can't have that terraced house. You can't have it.
But if you're talking about luxury properties, we've got to take a moment to talk about the travesty of how much luxury housing gets put up in terms of flats in major urban centres that don't get used and don't get occupied. They exist
Manchester's
for
really
one
bad for this.
purpose.
Yeah.
One purpose
Oligarchs.
is to be an investment asset. They are essentially building gold bullion, and then it sits there useless.
Yeah.
It's
isn't that a good solution? Don't we just tie the whole thing to crypto, create a we create a virtual housing market on Hailing Island.
They
let them all fuck about with their money over there, basically. And we take
gamble on their
5%
money.
of it.
Well, it's not their money, is it? It's
council
usually someone else's money.
They've more or less tried fake housing on a crypto market. I mean, it was called the metaverse. Famously, it's doing rather well, isn't it?
And now it got wound up a couple of months ago. That was great. Next week we're doing a new patch. We're doing a new upgrade to the system, and it's going to give everyone legs. I mean, God, imagine that. Imagine that was your creation myth. On the 8th day, God gave everyone fucking legs. Up to that point, no fucking legs.
You know what the problem was with the metaverse?
Fuck yeah, he had a day off. He's
like,
you can have some legs now. Oh, thanks for that, God. I can move about now. Stupid. Just absolutely insane, isn't it? The amount of money that they put in that. But then again, that's been dwarfed by the amount of money that's put in AI. And again, I know we talk about AI a lot, but fucking hell. Did anyone see the Hannah Fry thing about the AI agent that she set up?
Oh yeah, the one that
yeah.
The one that emailed out every journalist and random person that she knew, started sharing passwords online. Within a matter of hours, it had sort of gone. I'm trying to think of a good comparison here. It had just sort of gone home alone on every piece of her personal information.
This was a thing called like Claw Grab or Grab Claw or something, and it's a plug-in. Right, so it uses the AI engines that are already there, so the large language models that are already there, but it asks them what to do next, right? So it says, I've got this problem, what do I do, And then it uses those responses, and it has access to your emails, your passwords, your credit card, and it can go and buy things. It can go and pay for concert tickets or try and buy some paper clips or whatever you said to do. You can say, I want to set up a business selling novelty mugs. This is what Hannah Fry did. By the way, Hannah Fry is going to be in the new season of The Traitors when it comes out in a few months.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that. She's fellow redhead. She'll be in the enclosure with me and Karen Gillan when the aliens put us all in the big zoo. TGA, thanks very much to Scott there for the £5 super chat. Thank you. Typical, I'm too depressed to come on the show, and my husband Alex is on. You're getting some love there, Alex, from Scott. So big love to Scott. I hope you feel better soon, mate, and have you back on the show. But you can watch. It's fine. Just look but don't lick. Anyway, so going on about this AI agent, and this is the way they reckon it's going to go. People are going to say, reply to all my emails, and it's really persistent. So it wrote to journalists, like Ed said, it wrote to journalists saying, please help me. I've got to sell some novelty mugs or they're going to shut me down. I'm happy to do an interview with you. Please don't let them kill me.
The biggest thing I think with AI is just how easy it appears to pretend to be a human. Basically. Like we're all worried about this thing, but I think the thing we should be analysing is just how dumb we all are. That we fall for this shit, basically. That this thing can write a poem that's better than most people can write. And I'm not saying they're good. I'm not saying they're good. I'm not saying they're creative. I'm just saying most people are fooled by it. I honestly, I was at a party yesterday and 2 people told me that their best friend is ChatGPT.
Their best friend?
They use it for counselling. It's the person
they use
that
it
understands them the most in the world,
Like the movie Hair, Spike Jonze movie Hair, where he falls.
And for me, all it ever does is just confirm that we are very easy to emulate. Basically, it's not
or manipulate.
It's like we ask AI to solve cancer; it can't really do that. But we ask it to pretend to be humans, works a treat. basically. So it says something about humans,
Get
doesn't
things
it?
wrong all the time.
I think it's
cancer is
that poster.
probably better than us because it can't deal with that problem, but it seems to be able to.
You saw Disney sacked all their creative brains for Marvel. Like there's over 1,000.
Yeah.
Creative designers.
Yeah, for Marvel.
Cartoonists.
Yeah, they're going to replace them all with AI.
And they get tax break every year of about 1.4 billion. And they sack all these people. And then you go, well, wait, they created everything and it's just going to leech off what they've already created. I mean, that's arguably what it's done with everything.
Alex, I announced this week I'm doing that, basically. So,
you sacked all your staff?
I've sacked all of them. It's only me.
You're fired. You're fired. He's looking into a mirror.
Here's what I think, right? And this is just my current thinking on this, is that I have been playing with Leonardo.ai, right, which is a video and animation and illustration AI tool. And you can train it on your own work. All right, so you can create an AI agent that is able to draw my pictures. And being honest with you, as a tool, like if I create an image, it can take me 5-6 hours to do one panel of a cartoon. Yeah. And then the rendering takes about an hour and a half, and that means my machine is useless to me. And this, to me, is just a better way of doing that. It's taking my images, I give it some instructions and feed it with some images, and then I can create images based on my own original artwork. And I figure, well, if they're all going to do that, I'm not just going to sit here waving a flag saying you can't do that anymore. What about me and my pencil? I'm the classic version of it. I'm just going to say, hey, I'm going to fucking use it as well. And I've worked out a way to. I'm going to create 12 books a year to teach English as a foreign language to toddlers based on cartoons that I've been drawing for the last 10 years.
Do you feel as if that's comparable though to what Disney have done?
Well, I just figure that it depends what they're replacing it with, because the headline story is they're getting rid of all their creatives. If what they're going to do is give a producer ChatGPT and let the producer type in what he wants, then they'll go bust fairly quickly, because producers are all arseholes and they always get this stuff wrong when they get to the creative side of this, right? But if what they're actually doing is getting rid of large chunks of their VFX people, large chunks of their animation people who are no longer actually needed, because we now have software that can do that stuff. And I've lived long enough and worked in this field long enough to have seen people's jobs disappear because computers came along over and over again. Yeah. When I first got involved in graphic design, we were chopping things up out of Letraset, sticking them on a huge, great photo machine. There was somebody's job to do the photography. There was somebody's job to do the half toning. There was somebody's job to do the Letrasetting. They all went. They've all disappeared. But they didn't disappear because they went off and learned. I taught them, half of them, how to use computer-aided design packages, etc., etc., etc. They're tools. They're just tools. And I think where it ties in with Graham's view on this, which I do agree with in a lot of cases about AI being a bit shit, is the creative bit that AI is shit at. And we are quite good at that still. And I think as long as we're focusing on that and the tool is being used to create things better, faster, cheaper, then that's good. If you're just asking AI, create me a Marvel movie, it will be shit. It just will be shit, basically, because the kind of brains that you're going to need, they're writing brains. I genuinely believe that there is an art to writing a decent prompt. Some of the reasons that AI turns out shit is because the prompts are shit. It's the old thing about computers, shit in, shit out. If you give it a bad prompt, if you say, I want a Marvel movie but scary, basically, you're not going to get anything decent out of that at all. If you start telling it Wolverine's character development over the series, basically, if you start talking about what his children are like and what the relationship is, etc., then you give it enough information for it to actually form some stuff that's useful.
There's the difference. I feel as if Disney's bought your company, hired you on board to work with you, and then gone, we don't need you anymore, go away. And then you're left with, I guess you could come up with a new idea.
It's like anything in software, though, isn't it? I learned some software 35 years ago that I still use. It's not industry standard. I'm very good using it. I would be shit using the industry standard software because it would take me a year to learn it. I don't really want to learn it. I'm quite happy creating the art that I'm using on it. But the technology has advanced to such a degree now that I sit there doing things with my computer that at the end of the day, I know there is software out there that can do it quicker, and that's been around for 10 years. what I'm looking at is taking a leap into AI is pretty good at rendering 3D images, and I've got 3D images aplenty, basically. So
And you've already
know.
drawn them. Do you know what I mean? You've already
Yeah,
made
that's
the
the difference.
components. Like when we do draw
Yeah.
again, you're not drawing from scratch. You're taking from assets.
I'm
that
taking
you've already
models and assets
created
that I've
and just-
created. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's
So
a
I
lot
can
faster.
feed.
Yeah.
And the way Leonardo works is I can give it 25 of my images and objects that I create and settings that I've built and say, okay, use all of this stuff. And then I want to tell this story. And because we're developing a way of teaching English to toddlers, basically, because there's a massive market in Spain that I discovered last week, basically, that I didn't realize was there. But fundamentally, I'm just able to say, I can work on the pedagogy then much more than I do the drawings. So I can work on how do we
What
make
does
this.
that word mean?
Use ChatGPT and ask that.
Teaching of children things.
Tell you it's got 7 R's in it.
Okay.
It's the way of teaching. It's the method of teaching.
GPT. Right. So define. So how do you spell it? PAEDO.
No.
PH.
It's the way you teach. It's just teaching.
Oh my God! No, that's
teaching
not
methods.
right.
No,
Sorry.
it's
Let's give me the
PED.
definition of pedophilia. Sorry. What was the
Yeah.
word again?
Pedagogy.
Ped. PED. Oh,
PED.
Yeah.
God. G.
Donald Trump's pedagogy.
Pedagogue.
It's a pedagogue.
A pedagogue is someone who likes to put someone else's foot in their mouth. What the
No.
fuck, Mike? What is wrong with you? I'm sorry. I shouldn't king shame.
He's maybe your bad prompting.
Yeah.
skills, I think.
Yeah, you're just proving Mike's point.
Well, yes, and a pedagogue is someone who is overtly rigid, dull, or obsessed with rules and theory.
That sounds like teaching.
Pedagogy is basically the method of how you're going to do the teaching.
Yeah.
Right. So you can teach in phonetic. You can teach the alphabet phonetically, or you can teach it by rote. There's methods that you use to teach.
But it can mean someone who's pedantic as well.
No.
So if you're a pedantic demagogue, then you're a pedagogue.
I feel he's just saying that because he doesn't like teachers, and he's
I have a
targeting
feeling-
you and me, Mike.
Here's how it works, Graham.
I was
Here's how
teacher's
it
pet.
works.
I used to bring in a pineapple every day.
It's 19 euros a month, and I'll send you one of these books. Then you can learn English too, basically.
Oh, brilliant. That'd be good. People ask me how many languages I speak, and my usual joke is I'm from Liverpool. I barely speak English. But yeah, I agree that it can be used because I was thinking of like animation, right? So animation in the golden age of Hollywood obviously could spend years making Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. When it came to television, you think about the animation on Hanna-Barbera cartoons, it was shite. Like it was very, very low quality because that's all they could do in the time and the budget that they had. When it came to The Simpsons, they exported all of their animation to Korea. Like all of the actual drawing between the frames, the tweening was done in Korea. But now a lot of that's come back to America because they can do it on computers. They don't need to send it over to Korea to get people in Korea to do every single other frame.
To some extent, and this is a bit of a shift in my thinking on AI. To some extent, that it's like my situation now. We're changing the law. We're doing something, and I agree with it entirely. I agree entirely with the Renters' Right Act. Really pleased to see it come in. I happen to be one of the people that's a victim of the transition, and I'm okay with that because I know where the landlord's car is, and I do intend to get Graham down one day with a Molotov cocktail, and we'll sort it out. That problem will go away. But the reality of this one is that jobs will go. They will change. They definitely will. Imagine all the people that were doing cell animation for Disney. Yeah. Imagine the headline in 1960 when they went over to using other ways to do it, photographic transitioning and stuff. Loads of people lost their jobs, and there is a major difference, and this is fundamental to it. And it's good and bad. Like I think since the operation, I failed to see the completely dark side of everything. Everything has got a dark and light side to it. But fundamentally, if they had trade unions in those days, and actually Hollywood is more trade unionized than most places, basically, ironically. But they had trade unions, and what happened was it was a slow process that nearly sent Disney bust. That's why there were so many shit films in the late 1960s, because they couldn't afford to keep the people on that they were having to. All right, so you could say it's a bad thing when unions get together and protect those jobs, because all they were doing, there was a Luddite element to it, which is saying we are holding off against technology here. Now, what Disney should have been forced to do was say we are going to retrain all of you.
Yeah, retraining. I was going to say that,
and that's what they should be doing now.
Their jobs. Yeah.
But now in the VFX industry, the CG industry, the animation industry, there's no fucking trade unions at all. Everybody's a freelancer.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare
0 hours.
place where they are going to lose their jobs, and they're not being paid well for the balls aching work they're having to do to make these things.
Yeah.
You know, Marvel have gone, I can't remember the exact numbers basically, but it used to be about £50,000 a second on VFX and animation, and they've gone down to something like 15,000 per second. All right. Now, all that means is that there are people sitting there sweating for 24 hours a day in VFX shops, you know, which are not much more fun than working in a sweatshop in India, basically.
Well, yeah,
You
the
know,
last thing they think about is a VFX. They have to get the crew, they have to get the cast, they have to get all the shooting days, everything. And then once it's all in the can, they're like, right, over to the VFX. By the way, this movie comes out in 2 months. Good luck.
Yeah. Oh, and also, can you make it all happen at night instead of the way we shot it?
Yeah, can you change the main actor's face? Because they've just been done for being a wrong un.
But this is the point. When you follow VFX people now, they are blown away by what AI can do for them, because it is getting rid of a lot of that shit. Where the producer or the director is saying, oh, by the way, turn the whole thing into a nighttime shoot. You can now do that. Put the actor back into this scene. You can now do that. You don't have to go out and do reshoots.
Did you see the Brad Pitt Tom Cruise AI fight?
Yeah,
No.
I saw that.
Fucking nuts. It looks so realistic.
Mm.
You were like,
Yeah.
might as well have actually.
And
hired
that
them to
in
do
the
it.
last 18
I
months,
didn't
that
see
has
if you could tell the
progressed
difference.
rapidly.
I look at it like Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One. It's just there's some uncanny valley thing about it. I don't know. I don't think most people pick up on it, but I just, whenever I see something that's AI or something that I think is AI, I'm just like, I get the ick. By the way, Miss Paula Thomas, before we go on, £5 super chat. Thank you very much. It's not as if we didn't have a warning from the office rental market in the 60s and 70s, of which Centrepoint is an example. Centrepoint in Tottenham Court Road in London. That's empty until the 80s, and now it's
still empty.
again.
It's still fucking empty.
I know.
I checked.
Yeah.
What the fuck is the point in that?
Fucking useless.
Ironically, I think Shelter's got an office in there, haven't they? Or they used to have, basically.
Just turn it into flats for homeless people. Apparently, they're bringing back The Apprentice in America, and they're going to get Donald Trump Jr. to take the role of Donald Trump.
My god!
And you're going to.
I sometimes wonder if we could somehow kidnap him. I'll turn up and I'll just put on a faux American accent.
Yeah.
And then just tell Donald how
you
great
could you could pull that off, Alex.
I could pull that off.
We got
Pete,
Pete Q in the chat. Sorry, go on.
That's it. No, that was my plan. Maybe we use AI.
Yes. Pete Q in the chat. Teachers screwing up kids with their own childhood trauma for decades. Super chat. Thank you very much for the £5. I think that's a little bit unfair, because you never forget a good teacher, and you never forgive a bad one. As far as I'm concerned.
Shall we have an AI party? Shall we just set up a party that's for AI and everything's run by AI?
I think that's already been
Black Mirror. That was a Black Mirror episode, wasn't it?
There was an AI social media platform at one point, or I don't know if there still is, but they just literally got AI agents talking to each other on social media. Yeah. It took about 5 minutes for them to start plotting the destruction of the human race. It was, it was just like.
But they sold it. They sold it really well with animated characters and everything. It was brilliant.
I just don't understand what the purpose of it is. I mean, it sort of comes back to, and I've sort of listening through that conversation. I get where you're coming from, but I think I keep asking myself, but what's the purpose? What are we trying to achieve with this? What is the outcome? And it seems to me that one of the problems with the way the industries are going, particularly in the creative sector, whether that is VFX or whether that's anything else, the problem is when we lose sight of what we're trying to achieve, when it's more about, how can we cut corners more? How can we do less with even less? And rather than thinking, how can we challenge ourselves? What can we make that's new with this? And I'm going to run defense of really, really crappy animations from the 90s and the 2000s. I'm going to say, actually, having grown up with really, really low resolution, badly done 3D animation when I was little, I don't think it actually stopped us from enjoying a lot of that stuff. Like some of it had its own kind of charm. I think
because the fundamental thing is the writing and the storytelling, basically.
The writing of the story matters. And I feel like the story that we're stuck telling ourselves these days, we're becoming more and more derivative, and we're sort of working our way back to a more and more sort of average grey slop the sort of the middle ground, the ultimate corporate middle ground of creativity.
Except, I would argue that you're ignoring the existence of YouTube. You know, it's like
That's
we're
getting
not
heavily
talking. We're not talking about the world where we were trying to make animations on the cheap because broadcasters were struggling to get advertising money, and there were 4 broadcasters. We're talking about a world where if you don't like what you're seeing, you go and make something yourself, and you can find an audience for yourself, right? And these tools becoming cheaper. It's a democratization of creativity, right? That I am now capable of creating things that Pixar were creating 5 or 10 years ago, using my models, my stories, whether they're good enough, whether they're as good as Pixar, whether one person creating those things on YouTube can get anywhere near the idea of 1,000 people working on a Pixar movie. I don't know, but
I think
but I know that. I know that 4 of us could start a production company right now, and we could make things.
Yeah,
let's do it. I want to do that. Can we start a production company, please? Can we start one?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we can. We just can. We're sitting here we're broadcasting. We have
Unfortunately, a friend of a friend already started a company called Biscuits, which is what I'd like to call my production company, so I can't use that one. So you'd have to think of a better name than Biscuits.
Oh, we'll have to scrap the entire plan then.
I know.
Man.
Really good name. We got a £10 super chat. Thank you from UK Mars Adelaide. My councillor mate was pushing a Tory councillor in Surrey Heath. I said no, they will just prop up reform, so I will vote Lib Dem. We'll go back to that in a moment, but first of all, I just want to say to Vendetta, who says the thing about Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars is not AI or animation. That was Leah they did that for. Wayne Pigram, Scorpius from Farscape, played Tarkin with prosthetics. No, it wasn't. It was Guy Henry, and they digitally changed his face to make him look like Peter Cushing. Go and look it up. It's CGI. It's CGI. It looks shit. I think it looks like a cutscene from a GTA game.
It does.
Looks
but it's what?
Bobbins.
10 years ago now that was done?
They should have just got Guy Henry, who looks a bit like... He's an actor. He looks a bit like Moff Tarkin, and said, hello, Moff Tarkin. When he came in, he went, oh, hello. As you know, I'm Moff Tarkin. And then everyone got, okay, it's just the same character played by a different actor. Like what happens in films all the time. Sorry.
It doesn't need to, though. I mean, you can actually animate that yourself. I mean, this is another wild thing. You could actually get in... If you know how to do the editing, and with the AI software coming in, you could re-edit movies. Yeah. So those scenes that you don't like, you could then re-edit in. Do you ever see... Do you ever aware of the Star Wars advertising they put in where they would sneak in like beers at different points and make it look like it was cut into the movie?
Adverts for, it's like a Mexican beer brand.
Yeah.
And it was like, Obi-Wan Kenobi was like, your father wanted to have this when you were old enough. And then it cuts to his hand and he's handing him a beer. And he drinks it. And then that's the advert. It's just fucking genius. Absolute genius.
Absolute genius.
There is a...
That wasn't AI, was it? That was just clever editing.
No, that was like old school.
Your father wanted to have this when you were old enough. It's a fucking beer. Come on, that's genius. That is
really we all hark back to these glory days of cinema and television, basically. But I give you the Star Wars Christmas musical special to tell you that there was no CG, no VFX,
no, just Carrie Fisher off her tits on crystal meth,
and
singing a song to the tune of Star Wars,
and a bunch of Wookiees celebrating Christmas, basically.
Lumpy and Grumpy and Martha. That was the name of the Wookiees, isn't it? Lumpy, Grumpy, and Martha.
I'm just saying, if you leave humans
drugs
to their
are
creative
bad,
processes, it's
drugs
not
are bad.
necessarily you're not going to get a great outcome.
So in the Star Wars holiday special, B. Arthur from the Golden Girls, she's now the person in charge of the cantina in Mos Eisley, and they have a little bit of an adventure, and then they decide. She says, "Okay, we're closing up for the night now, last orders," and the people don't want to leave, so she sings them a song about friendship. So they'll go, okay, we'll leave now. This is genuine. The Star Wars holiday special, broadcast on I think CBS in 1978, and
it is awesome television.
You can't quite grasp how bad it is until you watch it, and it is. Just...
I tell you, I think actually it's an argument for why if you give AI tools to producers to make things, that's the kind of thing.
That's the kind of thing. They're going to have Wookiees talking Wookiees at each other, going for like literally 20 minutes without any human speaking.
Two producers in the room will say, "Hey, Star Wars is popular. We could definitely make an entertainment show based on it for Christmas." And the other one go, "We'll use AI." And then they'll say, "Have you actually seen Star Wars?" No, but I think there's Wookiees in it. We'll do that, basically. Type Wookiee into
They had a
ChatGPT.
cooking segment in it. Like, they got the person who was like the Rick Stein of the day to be in this. They got Jefferson Airplane to be in it, playing, and
The only good thing is
called
it-
themselves Jefferson Starship.
It did. It created the only good
Drugs
thing
are
in it
bad,
was
kids.
the animation of Boba Fett. That was the only good thing in the entire.
Yes,
show.
that's true. The first appearance of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Who got eaten by the Sarlacc and came out like 20 fucking kilos heavier, which was a bit of a weird thing to do. Did they eat the fucking Sarlacc? What happened there, Boba? But there you go.
Did you watch the Iran Lego?
Oh God, they're great, aren't they?
Oh, hang on. Vendetta says wrong episode. I didn't mention episode 3, Vendetta. I specifically said Rogue One. Did everyone hear me say Rogue One? Hands
Yeah,
up here
I
if
did,
you went
actually.
to the
I heard you say
Leicester Square premiere of Star Wars Episode 3.
I heard you
Hashtag just
going
saying.
deep into a rabbit hole, and I just started thinking about other things from. So I'm sorry.
That happens a lot with me.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm having sex. Anyway, UK, Mars, Adelaide. Thank you very much for the £5 super chat. And great news. This triggers the confetti cannon. Yay. CPAC conference MAGA supporter asked, have you seen Liz Truss? And they said, who? Made my day. Well, you've made my day as well because you've triggered the confetti. So 3, 2, 1, confetti!
We could use AI to create genuine looking excitement on the face of your guests when we do confetti.
Yeah.
It's going to have to work very hard.
Are we
I
going
can do
to
a good deadpan.
Are we going to go to the CPAC? Alex, do you want to come to the CPAC conference in London with me?
Is that actually happening here?
Yes. I want
Yeah,
5
I'll
of
go.
us to go. We're going to wear masks of famous dictators, right? And we're going to hold signs up saying we approve and like the Reich stuff. And I not see any problem. I do not see any problem with this. Just 5 because all the media will take pictures of it. Of
But
our
you know
little
the whole
tiny
thing with
protest outside.
CPAC is the whole thing with CPAC is really fucked. Have you seen all the back funding that's been going on, where they've been getting their money from?
Where they? Oh,
You know,
can I
that.
guess? Is it the oil company? Is it Russia? Is it
So
the
indirectly,
military
Russia,
direct?
yeah,
Is
it's
it the industrial
Hungarian-
military complex in Israel?
It's no, we've already got that embedded. No, we haven't. Because say Peter Thiel, but no. Well, I mean that's
Peter
like,
Thiel?
isn't it? Yeah.
He's
No,
Gollum with a hangover.
It's Hungary. Orban.
Oh
Orban
yes,
is funding it through
yes,
MCC.
That's right. Through the bloody taxpayers in Hungary. They were paying for these CPAC
Yeah.
conferences in America, right?
Yep.
Oh my god!
And that was then funded through Russian oil. So it was Mpol, I think it was, is the company, which is Hungarian, but it owns Russian oil somehow.
Yeah.
Which they then fund and 10% goes in of their profits go into MCC, which then funds CPAC.
Yeah.
I mean, the list goes on because have you seen the Gandhari family from Iran?
Yes.
Funding Farage.
They're funding Farage, yeah.
So, this is one of the things that I think I keep wanting to say this, and I just want to keep saying this in rooms where there are sort of left-wing influencers and just left-wing activists of any description whatsoever. It's like, if you want to actually take reform down, this is how Hungary this is how Hungary got rid of Viktor Orban. This is basically because people got sick of the corruption and the sort of the trails of money leading to horrifying places. And I think actually, if you talk to reform voters, the thing that can be really frustrating is the level of conspiracy theory they've got about left-wingers. But if you just supply them with the simple facts of where Farage is getting his money from, where the right wing are getting their money from, I think that the scales might just fall from some eyes, because it's just providing them with providing them with a simple story that makes sense, but would have the benefit of being true in this case.
The problem is, a lot of the things, like we had Pizzagate, right? And everyone went, that's crazy. Then it turns out you go and read the Epstein files, and they clearly have a coded language. God knows about what. Loads of people have theories. I will not go with what the theory is, because I don't think we know what the code is. But there is clearly a code, and it's involving pizza, shrimp, and grape soda. And and on that really weird note, and I bring it up a lot, is Epstein's doctor goes, I'm going to get you some Viagra. Can't remember the specific type. He goes, go and take this Viagra and let's go out and get some pizza and grape soda. Now, on so many levels, that is so fucked.
Yeah.
If it was just Viagra,
That's,
why are you
that's
taking Viagra
totally
to go
worse.
and have pizza?
That is worse than putting pineapple on pizzas, isn't it? Like sprinkling Viagra. Is that?
But
I get very confused with my pills because I've got ADHD pills, which stands for all day hard dick. They're the blue ones. And then the other ones are like, I don't know, speed or something.
Red pill.
Red pill.
I'm not old
Red
enough to be
pills.
on this now.
Blue pill.
We've got an idea. We've got an idea coming in from The Hidden Night. We could sing "That's the Way." I like it. I like
Brilliant.
it. Oh, okay, right. Get the squeaky tank
Brilliant.
out.
I
And
feel like
Elle
we
said
did
we should have
one.
said Boba Fetty instead of Confetti. Oh God, we missed that
Oh.
opportunity, didn't we? God damn it, we should have been Boba Fetty. Boba Fett.
You might have got copyright strike for that. So
We might have. Yes. Yes.
Oh, God, yeah, because
Disney
you
are
can't
no
even
fun.
hum on YouTube anymore, can you?
What? You can't hum a tune?
No.
Yes,
on
you
YouTube.
can.
No.
Did you not? What did you hum? What did you hum?
You did.
What?
You did just then. You started saying that's the way I like it.
Yeah. Have we been banned now? Am I in trouble?
Probably be demonetized.
Penny Lane is in my ears.
No.
oh no.
There beneath the blue. That's it. They're not worried about the copyright. It's just my terrible singing.
Copyright finally did something right.
Yeah. Daniela says, I like ham and pineapple pizza. Lol. Beautiful. That's my favorite message today so far. In
That's
the chat.
code for something.
No, it's
Have the
not.
courage to believe what
Yeah.
you believe and stand on your beliefs.
If you like ham and pineapple, that is fine. If you don't like it, you don't have to eat it. It's okay. It's okay for it to exist. It's one of those things that no one's ambivalent about. They either really like it and like quite evangelical about it, or they just like, no, this thing should be banned from the face of the earth. Pineapple has no place on pizza. But if you ever go to San Francisco, my friends, they put broccoli on pizza. Now that can fuck off. That can fuck off all the way to Fucktown. Broccoli should never, ever, ever go on pizza.
Have you tried it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's horrific. It's almost as bad as fertilized duck egg balut from the street food from the Philippines.
I don't know.
It's got like a little
someone evidently likes
it's
it.
got like a little duck fetus inside it. It's all like grey and veiny. It's
What
pretty
did it
bad.
taste like?
Fucking awful. Like biting into the devil's bollocks. I don't know. It was awful. It was as bad as you will think. It was like eating a rotten egg. It's like eating a fucking rotten egg. You know, like in China, that they have the 100-year-old egg that they fucking bury in the ground and you eat it after 100 years.
Never heard that.
Yes, that's in
100-year
China,
egg.
isn't it? Or
It's
is it
China,
Japan?
yeah. No, it's China.
It's China.
That probably tastes like that. Who was it who found a 100-year-old egg and went, oh, yeah, that's all right?
I think, isn't it? Because I remember as a child making 100-year-old eggs. So I'm not sure that it's not just a recipe. It's like a boiled egg and you crack the shell and then you put it in vinegar.
And then you get in
And
your
then you
time
take
machine, you go 100
take
years
the-
into the future.
No,
and eat
wait.
it.
when you take the shell off, it's covered in green veins. Like
Oh God, you are
fish.
making me hanker for fish and chips.
Pickled egg. Pickled egg.
I had
Pickled
fish and
egg.
chips yesterday on the Northumbria coast. That was lovely. Elle says, by the way, it's May the 4th tomorrow. So May the 4th be with you. Before everyone gets in their Star Wars jokes. And May the 4th, obviously being the most tragic day in history. May the 4th, 1979. That's when Margaret Thatcher won. And that's when the timelines diverted. Thanos clicked his fingers and fucked everything.
That
for
was
him.
very Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Just the year.
No, Empire Strikes Back was the year after, wasn't it? It was.
No, I mean it historiographically, like the narrative moment is very Empire Strikes Back.
Yes, it is, and they've been striking back ever since. Like,
Yeah.
Is the new Mandalorian film out this week? Because it's May the 4th. Is it this week?
Devil
it
Wears
comes out?
Prada is, which is very
Oh.
Thatcher.
I don't know.
It must be out this week, isn't it?
Mandalorian and Grogu. I hate that name. It sounds too much like Grok. Like Grok. I can't use Grok because I don't like the sound of the name. It's like peanut
I'm a
butter, I
little more
can't eat
concerned
it.
about some of the things they've made with Grok, if I'm honest.
Yeah. But no, the name Grok is horrible. It's just a horrible
Yeah.
sounding word.
Elon Musk famously doesn't know how to name anything. I mean, he's stolen a letter from the alphabet and made it controversial.
started typing in Mandalorian, and it came up with Peter Mandelson.
This is
That's
the problem
bad,
with
isn't
your
it?
search. You put in pedagogy
Wow.
and you get foot sucking.
Just your search history needs a full cleanse.
It does. It's all this political shit. It's got
Mm.
90% on. Oh no, that's the series. Oh, okay.
No, it comes
I
out on the
don't think it's out
22nd.
yet. I've got a funny
Comes out on the
feeling it's set this
22nd of May.
Yeah, that's
John
around
Favreau.
Star Wars. So the original Star Wars came out on May the 25th, 1977.
Yeah.
So that's
It's
officially
John
Star Wars
Favreau,
Day.
so it's probably good, basically.
But there's
Fingers
going to
crossed.
be a big party next year in LA, a big Star Wars party of all the Star Wars fans getting together for the 50th anniversary. And
Is it actually
I'm-
50 years?
50 years. since the
Jesus,
first
I
Star
went.
Wars film came out.
I went to see it in 1977.
Oh,
at
when
the
you
cinema.
dinosaur? Did you take that on the dinosaur?
I'm just looking at Edward and thinking he's going. No, were there cinemas and electricity in 1977? Are you serious?
I am 31 years old, I'll have you know. I wasn't.
Yeah, you
Had
little
things transitioned to
whippersnapper.
colour by then, Mike?
Basically.
Had things transitioned to
I do.
colour? Because in the past, everything was black and white, right?
Edward, if you're 31 years old, you're
Yeah.
younger than my eldest son, right? So your first experience of Star Wars was either dad showing it on an old VHS or going to see the prequels.
But I will tell you a true thing. I didn't see Star Wars until I was in I want to say my mid-20s. I was a very long time before I actually saw it. And I think I'd grown up thinking it was massively overrated. I watched I know, look, I'm going to try and redeem
Don't you
myself.
start in the chat, all right? We're going to
Okay.
ban the word
But-
overrated after the other day.
But I liked the
Hey, Pranay.
the trilogy, the original.
Yeah, the original was good.
The original trilogy was all right. I did like the scale of the prequels, but I just thought the storytelling didn't hold together, and I wasn't sure what the fuck
Shite.
was about at that point. So
Yeah, good example of how not to make a movie.
Hmm.
Pranay, how you doing, mate? You all right?
Hey,
Yay!
yeah, very
we can
well,
see
thank
you. We can
How
hear
are
you.
all?
We're all right.
Good.
Old Ed is shitting one about these elections on Thursday, where every Labour councillor in the country is going to lose their job. Well, it's
you
not
are
a real
trying
job. It's not a
so
real
hard
job,
to
is
get
it?
me into trouble today. You are trying so hard, and you're not going
Not
to
gonna
succeed.
happen.
I think though that Labour are like, oh, this is going to be awful. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath. So when they
feel
only
like-
lose 1,499 councillors rather than 1,500, they go, well, it wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be.
I don't know. That's a usual sort of political stunt. I
Yeah.
genuinely, I think the question really, as I say, it's like we know that this year Reform they're gonna make some gains. We know that, and we know that it's gonna be pretty tough going. But then I think also it's what happens over the next couple of years that's going to really make the difference. Like, does Labour manage to turn it around, or does the decline carry on? That's going to be really the question. And it's like I said at the outset, the elections this year, a lot of the authorities that are coming up aren't going to exist in another 12 months. So it's really, my eyes, and I think a lot of my colleagues' eyes would be on what happens in 2027, because that's when it's going to really start locking in some of the damage. If you get reform-run councils in 2027, you are stuck with them for potentially 4 or 5 years. And there's a lot of damage they can do in that time. It's the county councils and the authorities at that level. If they are run by Reform, it almost doesn't matter at that point whether you've got a Labour or a Reform or whatever kind of government, because they can muck things up really, really badly. They can misappropriate the funds, or they can just fail to spend them effectively. At that point, local government does matter hugely, but it's really what happens in 2027, 2028 that I think will make the difference.
But I
Going
don't
back,
see.
going back to what you were saying. Sorry, Alex, but just going back to what you were saying at the beginning. Do you think that they're just trying to dry run for the unitary authorities in 2027? Because those authorities will be quite powerful, won't they?
Yeah.
Compared to most county and town councils and city councils.
I don't think that Reform are dry running for the unitary authorities, and I'll tell you why. I don't think they're serious about local government whatsoever, on lots of levels. So Farage doesn't give a damn about the councils that he already controls. He's famously gone on the air to say about Worcestershire County Council, I don't know why we bothered. Now, most party leaders don't say stuff like, I wish my entire council group wasn't there. It would have been better if we'd not won. Politicians never say that. It is always the case. You should always be saying, we want to win. Winning is always better than losing from the perspective of a politician. It is wild that Farage is so keen to wash his hands of a council. The situation in Worcestershire was not great, the one that they inherited. They inherited a financial mess from the Tories, and then they immediately put a former Tory in charge of the council again, and then they've replaced her with another former Tory, because they've still got a couple left to go, and a couple left in the tank that they haven't tried yet. But I think in terms of like, are reform dry running for future authorities? No, they're not serious. And one more point before I shut up on this. The number of candidates that they have stood who don't know what their own authorities are able to do. They haven't even brushed up on what the remit is for those local governments. For example, on literature, I've probably got some stashed somewhere else. Talking about stop the boats, stopping immigration, getting rid of asylum seekers. None of that comes under local government. That is not in their power. They're promising things that they know they can't deliver and that aren't actually possible. They're talking about stuff that isn't relevant to local government. It's all about the cult of Farage. It's all about the idea.
Yes.
Farage is inevitable. Like Thanos, he's going to conquer everything. He cannot be defeated. He's so popular that merely by ordaining them, these council candidates shall be elected and shall be amazing. We assume. Please don't look at the finances. Please don't check the books. As if that's how local government is supposed to work. The idea, by the way, that these council groups are even going to have the privilege of deciding for themselves what their own policies are or making decisions of their own is for the birds. We've seen so much evidence of just their head office at Reform UK hand-picking people for roles, hand-picking candidates and leaders.
I think, sorry, Alex, you were going to say something earlier.
I agree that you'll see failure within reform, but I don't think we're going to see any success with Labour, because they do have these mechanisms for power and they can't fix any of them, and they've not put it into their manifesto. So we need 4 million houses. Their target, I think, is 1 million. So it'll be 3 million short. So everyone's still back at square one. There's nothing being sorted out with food. I've just seen them pretty much repeat what has been going on with COVID, of sticking their head in the sand in regards to the jet fuel crisis that's coming. So in Europe, I know for a fact, Norway, France, Italy, and I think Germany have all started putting restrictions on jet flights. We haven't. I haven't done anything. There's no planning again. There's never a plan. I don't know what it is.
Didn't they announce today, though, Alex, that they were going to
today? But
reschedule?
Norway's telling its citizens to have 3 weeks worth of food stocked. They ain't telling you that here, because it's that old thing of stick your head in the sand. So you're going, you need to get cheaper food. Well, you can't do that. You're pretty much corporatizing most of the industries. Like, that's what seems to be happening with housing. I've got a sneaking suspicion that's part of the plan, and definitely with agriculture, it's being corporatized, which I don't particularly like. I don't like corporations having huge control over like essentials. I'd rather have a set of farmers running it, or a conglomerate or a cooperative. So I'm going, haven't fixed the housing, haven't fixed any, and Brexit. They've done nothing. In fact, the thing with Brexit is, if you actually look at the trade deals they've done with Trump, it's locked us out of the EU. And gravity in trade is showing that is detrimental to us.
I think there's a couple of points in there.
Hang on, Ed. Before you go on, I'll come back to you. We are doing a poll at the moment. How many councillors are Labour going to lose on Thursday? Less than 1,000, 1,000 to 1,499, 1,500 to 1,999, and more than 2,000. So please vote now. Ed, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, no, I understand where you're coming from. I think the problem from where I'm sitting is one of expectations versus reality. And I think that, for example, if Labour had come in, and they couldn't have really come in promising to undo Brexit as part of the last election, I think that would have been, that would have broken the dynamic, broken the politics at that point. I think it's something that they should absolutely be promising in the next the next election campaign. That's absolutely something they should be promising.
Mm.
But in order to actually make a promise like that, you've got to try and stabilize your relationship with Europe. You've got to improve it enough that it is actually thinkable to go and say, hey, we might actually negotiate some new deal with you. Remember, we came in having just taken over from a conservative government who made a point of antagonizing Europe, who made a point of ratting on any deals that they signed with them. The British relationship with Europe was really bad, and our reputation was kind of like what we're seeing happening to America, where Trump is so unpredictable that he'll break any deal that he signs with you. There's no point in even having him in the room, because if you try to agree anything, he'll probably change his mind 5 minutes after leaving.
It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. Yeah,
So
I totally agree. It's a complete nightmare when you've got someone like Trump in charge.
So
I'd probably still say that when I looked at the manifesto, I went, I ran as an MP in my area. And I said to everyone, in 2 years, you'll be back to square one because it doesn't fix anything. And I've been proven right so far. Like, I don't think, I know the renters bill relatively well. It doesn't really fix anything. I mean, it gives you more stability, which is good, but it doesn't fix the core issue, which is lack of housing.
I think fixing the core issue.
But then, on a final point, the big issue is the trade deals that he's done with America. They're horrendous. He's locked us out. The pharmaceutical deal is horrendous. The agricultural deal is horrendous. And it's locked us out of the EU. But it also seems to have smashed up Gibraltar and Northern Ireland. But then here's the real crux of it, and no one brings this up with Farage, and to a certain extent with Starmer. Like, by continuing this, you're probably now going to see a split up of the United Kingdom. If that happens, we've got economic turmoil for at least a decade to 2 decades, and that's the end of that. That's our lives pretty much over and done with. Because and they have
chuckles.
They have every right to self-determination, but it is just going to be 10 years like separating from the EU.
Yeah.
Wales is Plaid looks like it's likely to win. SNP look likely to win. Both sides are going to ask for that. I don't think so much with Ireland unification, because I think Sinn Féin's dropped, hasn't it, in Ireland? But Northern Ireland is still Sinn Féin run. So you're like, there's a possibility there, but it's looking less likely. So you're going, this is just destruction.
As I understand it, the Irish don't really want it anymore. Basically,
is that
what Northern Ireland? Yeah,
the island itself doesn't want Northern Ireland to.
It's going to be a lot of hassle, isn't it? Because there's a lot of people up there who are British till they die, even though they're born in Ireland and will die in Ireland. But listen, before we go on, Mike, sorry, I've just got first of all the super chat that came in from UK Mars Adelaide. Thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Reform winning on Thursday is like a vaccine. The UK gets a little bit of the fascist regime to see what it's like and hopefully wakes people up. Thank you very much for the super chat. I will come back on that and say I don't think that it's useful to call them fascists. I think it's maybe useful for us. But to the people who want to vote for them, I think what stings them more is hypocrisy, corruption, and incompetence. And this is what, hopefully, like UK Mars Adelaide says, they get into these local areas, right, where they can't do so much damage, like nowhere near the damage they could do if they get into, the majority party in Westminster. But like their incompetence will tell on them, just like with Trump. It's not Trump being a fash that they hate. It's not him killing his own civilians on the streets that they hate. They don't hate that. They've got no problem with it at all. They don't mind being called a Nazi. They don't mind being called a fascist. What they do mind is incompetence.
I think it goes back to...
Sorry, well, I think there's two things on that. The base vote for Trump doesn't care about his incompetence and corruption. They don't. They're still writing it off and saying it's fine. The thing that just strikes me in this conversation is, well, what if Reform are just trying to emulate Trump? What if all of these local elections really are just about taking away democracy at a local level, saying we'll win them, we don't care, we won't run them, it doesn't matter. We will be in charge, so they will have to implement everything at the council levels. We'll sell off all the assets. We'll do all of the, and essentially we put Farage in power as the king across the water from Trump, basically. But it's the same model. And the argument where it falls down is I think there's two things here. Is that it kind of took us. Certainly Trump's second election, apart from Graham, I'll give him the credit for this. It took us by surprise. We thought that they'd already had their taste of fascism and incompetence and
No.
corruption, and they would learn their lesson. They didn't. But the other thing that always has taken the left by surprise, I think, is the amount of work for 25 years that the right have done to infiltrate themselves into society, into social media, into local government, into school boards, into everywhere.
50 years.
And we turn
50
around,
years, mate.
yeah, since Reagan, and we turn around and go, how the fuck did this happen? And you go, because they've been doing this for 50 years and we're not doing anything about it ourselves. We're not building an infrastructure ourselves to have a progressive situation that can deal with the media. And in America at the moment, they are suffering from that.
I would argue that Graham and myself have been slightly doing that by having these group meets with YouTube. But you then go, we need more money.
We're not buying ITV or Channel 5.
No, but we need
That's
more
what's
money.
happening in America at the moment.
So Graham's just mentioned the CPAC, right? We know Bannon, backed by Epstein, has done that, and we've seen it all on camera. Like he's literally having a meeting with Farage and going, let's go and get everyone together on the right. And they're all exchanging ideas on what works and what doesn't work. And then we know that that Russia's indirectly funding it. And we now know that Epstein's partly funding it, and God knows who else. And at the moment, I think the Christian nationalists in America are chucking cash.
Absolutely.
That's why Farage has flipped on abortion. But the point being is, like, Graham's just mentioned a CPAC coming to London. Where's the progressive version of this?
Exactly.
It doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Oh, there is. There's your party.
Could I?
What, me?
No, your party. The show. Who's on first? No, who's on second? Listen, before we go on, please, can I just say thank you very much to everyone who voted in the jumping in. Everyone who voted in the poll. Number one was 1,000 to 1,999 councillors, with 48% of the voting public voting for that. Less than 1,000, 18% thought that. 2,000 plus, 18% thought that as well, and the remaining 16% went for the 1,500 to the 1,999. I think that's the wisdom of crowds. I think you've got it right. I think that it will be around between 1,000 and 1,500. That's what I think. Anyway. Sorry, Pranay hasn't said anything yet. Pranay, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. No,
He's just sitting there going, I wish I'd shut up. Can't get a word in.
It's really interesting. I think that one of the things that I've always noticed about local elections are that they are supremely important for internal party politics and cross-party political positioning, but they're not always relevant to how the general public feel about the parties. So I think we in politics tend to sort of slightly exaggerate the significance of locals, I mean, at the end of the day, we are only going to have a 30% vote, 30% or so vote, 30% or so vote, 30% voter turnout, right?
Yeah.
70% won't bother. And I think that this time, if anything, if Labour does lose, it's probably going to be because a lot of, they will lose. It's just a question of the number of council seats. But it's probably, I think, a lot of Labour voters are just going to stay away because there are so many things that don't encourage people to support Labour anymore. Because we got Labour in after a long period of the we got Labour in after a long period of the Tories, in the GE. And so we wanted change, but we haven't seen that change. And we've seen a worsening, in a way, of some of the aspects. There have been positive steps, no doubt, the workers' rights, the tenancy, the tenant rights, for example. But we see a worsening. And in terms of local issues, I think one of the issues that's been gaining a lot of social media attention over the last weeks and months has been like have like been these warehouses in Wigan, right? Like where they've built them right next to the houses, and they are huge, and it's a Labour-run council, if I understand correctly, and it's just the response of the council or the lack of it or the lack of engagement is what drives people a bit more drive people a bit more kind of angry about it than they would be otherwise. So I think there's a host of factors here, but it's just going to mean that Labour supporters don't go to the polls basically,
Yeah.
and it's going to be between the Greens and Reform on who can take like the most seats up for grabs.
But
Anyway, that's
and
my take.
I think you're right, but don't forget there are elections in Wales and Scotland, and then national elections, and it does look like
Yeah.
Labour's going to lose Wales
True,
for the
true,
first
sorry.
time since
Yeah.
1999.
Yeah,
And in
yeah.
Feeling on the
Scotland,
ground,
the
I think.
SNP are probably going to do quite well. But
Yeah.
I'm really worried about refuck in Scotland and Wales, especially Wales. There's a lot of dickheads in Wales. They're not the
Wales,
Welsh,
yes,
by the
yeah.
way. They're English people who live in Wales. Dickheads, every one of them.
It bears thinking, just while we're saying that, when we say Labour lose Wales, I think it bears remembering Labour have never had a majority in Wales. They have always, it's because of the proportional system, which, by the way, is significantly better than what we have at the national level. You've never had a Labour administration where it was just Labour. It's always generally been Labour plus Plaid. And I think that has given Welsh politics a much more stable kind of demeanour than you get in national politics. In Britain as a whole, it's sort of a pendulum swing one way and the other quite sharply. Is it any wonder that it feels like that pendulum is kind of broken at the moment? It's just not a very good way of transacting your politics. I think just sort of coming back on and sort of trying to wrap together a number of the things we've been talking about, I think it's really easy to catastrophize about politics, especially right now. Like if I'm imagining disaster scenarios, I can imagine loads of them. I think that we're going into a very, very unstable period of history. There's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think a lot of the old things that we relied on as hard and fast rules of the way the world worked are all up for grabs all of a sudden. What's our relationship going to look like with America a year from now? Is it going to be the same? Is it going to be better? Is it going to be so much worse? We genuinely don't know. And I think with all of that in mind, it's very hard for any government to sort of get all of the messaging right on that. I think the thing I would say that Labour has got wrong in terms of messaging, the single thing, it's actually, I would say, rather than quality, it's quantity. It's actually getting out there and saying what they've got to say, being there to field the tough questions, because by comparison, Nigel Farage is bloody inescapable. It takes him being found out to have received millions of pounds from a single donor to then go on the run from BBC interview. Otherwise, he's just constantly present and he's running an incredibly slick media operation. And I think that's really the challenge from the left. And to sort of kind of come back to your point a minute ago, Alex, because I think it's a very valid one. Like, how do we fight against this without the money that they've got on their side? Because they have got vast amounts of money backing them up. I think we're playing a fundamentally different game from them on the left. Like, if you bring the money in, you end up with the problems from where it's come from, who it's attached to. We get scrutinized in a way that the right wing never does. I think that the advantage we've got, if we use it well and if we can play nice with each other, is that there's more of us than there are of them, and there always have been. There are more progressives out there. It's just that those progressives spend a lot of their time arguing with each other rather than arguing with the people that they actually disagree
No, we
with.
don't, Edward. What are you talking
Yeah, we
about?
do.
No, we don't.
I don't argue with anyone. Stop arguing with me.
No.
God damn it.
You are arguing. Stop arguing with
I
us.
could start an argument in there.
No, Edward, I think you're absolutely right, and I think something Pranay said resonates with me as well. That the local elections are more important to the party to a great extent. I don't know what your CLP is like, but having elections at the local level keeps the feet on the ground, the doors knocked, the stands at fates, etc., and the public performance stuff, and it prepares people ready to do all of that in the general election. And that is what I think. I honestly do believe that Reform are playing this game to build their grassroots because they know they need that. The reason incumbent parties like that always lose is they don't have enough people on the ground during a general election, basically.
I could come back on a point there. There's one point where I'm going to say you don't know how right you are. I think local parties tend to be more interested, if anything, in the most local elections possible. Like you will find effort and tears. You will find tears shed over parish council election results. And then it's like, oh yeah, the county exists as well. It's like, no, the county is where all the budget lives. That's so important. And to a great extent, like local parties are made up of local people. They're interested in the most local stuff imaginable. But that does mean that there can be a disconnect between what's going on. And sort of to Pranay's point, like you're absolutely right. Like there's a huge disconnect between local and national politics. They're not the same thing. And yet political parties will treat them that way and will try to read the tea leaves of the, in whatever the results are in those local elections. But I guess coming back to your point, Mike, and I'm going to say this very carefully because, I agree with a lot of what you've said. The one thing is, I don't think Reform are relying on councillors or to be the backbone of a traditional campaign operation. Again, we on the left particularly need to update our understanding of how local politics is done and transacted. Reform is top down. They didn't fight the last set of local elections by having loads of foot soldiers delivering leaflets. They won seats where they basically didn't knock the doors and where they may have paid to have leaflets put through people's doors, but they had no local activism. It's a top down movement. And we're not going to beat them that way.
£15 million from a Thai potential paedophile, I'm not saying that to get your channel banned, basically. This crypto billionaire, in Thailand runs a well-being hotel and retreat, basically. And you go, why would you do that if you're a crypto? If you're making all your money out of crypto, why
he didn't make all his money out of crypto. He made all the money out of his daddy because his daddy was very rich and he went to a very posh, privileged private school. Of course he did because he's got money. Ivan Ambrose, thank you very much for being a member for 6 months. Councillors must be able to do meetings from home. Well, this is something that, more and more people can work from home. And I don't see why councillors or MPs can't talk to their constituents via Skype. Oh, Skype doesn't exist anymore, that's why. Via Zoom or Meet or Teams or whatever, pick your poison. But yeah, and I just want to ask Ed, you were talking about people caring about local people obsessing over local matters. Is that like precious things? Is that what you're talking about there?
My precious thing.
I think there's a truism that you see when you're looking at any kind of meeting or any kind of politics. The most vicious battles are fought over the smallest stakes imaginable. People will fall out over the correct colour for the bike sheds.
So you're talking like snow globes, yeah?
I'm talking
dusty snow globes.
We had 3 CLP meetings cancelled because there was a major argument about who was going to store the trestle table.
Yeah.
That sounds like a setup for a joke.
No,
is that real?
It's real. There was no good
it's real.
outcome.
That's the type of stuff you end up dealing with. It's really
one of the best things that happened to CLPs was COVID, because we did them all on Zoom, and I spoke to my chairman and said, you can mute everybody, basically. And it was just like, they were the best meetings we ever had because nobody was able to start a major campaign in the middle of a CLP meeting.
Apart from that woman who didn't have the authority.
Yeah.
That's a parish
council. But yeah, I think it's quite interesting you talk about them obsessing over the local stuff. I was trying to make some reference there to League of Gentlemen, but no one got it. Never mind, we'll continue on. But Mike, and what Mike was saying, because this reminds me of when I was in university and people used to run for general secretary or president or internals officer or something. They would stand up in front of the lecture hall before the lecture started. Hello, my name is Graham. Vote for me. I'm going to stop NATO aggression in the South Balkans. And and all of the refuck literature is talking about national issues. It's talking about getting rid of Keir Starmer. It's talking about people coming across in small boats, immigration. So that's got nothing to do with local councils.
That was what Farage got tripped up on though this week, wasn't it? Because they then asked him about adult social care and got a clue. Got a clue. Yeah, it looked really bad.
But that comes back to my original point of, I think most voters don't know what their council does and don't care really about the voting. And the headline that Farage wants is that Reform smash Labour. Yeah, and then that'll be it. They'll be fine, basically. Yeah, if they get that headline, and we all know the Telegraph and the Daily Mail are going to write that headline for them anyway. It's already ready to go.
Preordained.
There's one headline.
And I think that
sorry, go on, Pranay.
And I think that I think that there's probably nearly half the population that doesn't even know that there are elections coming up. Like, I am not kidding. Like, there's at least, I don't want to say 50%, but probably at least 40% going up to 50% who have no idea that there are elections. So,
But then
Well, this does come back to having people knocking on doors and putting in leaflets. It is important because
I know.
it's not normally in the interest of an incumbent government to do much publicity about local
Yeah.
elections because they know they're going to get a beating most of the time, basically.
But then,
and, you know, and Farage doesn't want to go out there too much saying we're going to sweep the country because he also knows from the polling, like you say in Wales. You know, it's going to be tight in a lot of seats.
I've got to say, though, because, I mean, this came out this week and it was hardly mentioned in the press, which I couldn't believe, right? So the leader of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, he actually got a couple of free tickets to the footy. It wasn't Premier League or something. It was like kids' soccer league thing that they have. Oh, no, sorry, I can't read my notes here. No, it was Nigel Farage, and he got... 5 million, 5 million fucking pounds. 5 million.
Oh, come on, Graham.
That is the equivalent of 20 houses. Here, Nigel, have 20 houses. And then a week later, he decided to become MP.
As my friend Suella Braverman said, that was for his personal security, and it's got nothing to do with him becoming MP.
Because he had a parcel bomb posted through his letterbox. How big's his fucking letterbox? How can you get a parcel through a letterbox? I think someone stuck their dick in his letterbox and pissed through it, and he came in, found the wet carpet, and went, "Oh, it's a petrol bomb attack. Lucky that didn't ignite." And they're like, "No, Nigel,
she said she had an interview on Sky, and Suella Braverman, and she genuinely said, "Well, no, it's got nothing to do with it. It was 5 million for his personal security. He's the most at-risk politician in the country."
From milkshake.
And she said somebody threw a milkshake at him. Imagine if that had been something worse. Basically, how does it take 5 million quid to give him a plastic?
I imagine it was something worse every time I want to come.
There is. I mean, it's got to be said, the level of violence and the level of risk in our politics is something like we've never seen before. And like
because of Farage.
Because of the rhetoric that he himself is normalizing. Yes. I think that the devil's bargain of the far right and sort of the extreme right, and I'm going to put Farage into that bucket. And I know that Reform UK will not want to hear it because they don't like being classified as far right, but it is what they are in reality. You know, they've made the devil's bargain that they're going to play to the worst bigotry imaginable, to the worst, to the hatreds of a population in order to get themselves elected. But the thing about that bargain, and it's the same problem that Boris Johnson ran into in the end, if you stoke up that kind of animosity, that kind of fear, that kind of hatred, sooner or later, someone else is going to come along who can pander to it more than you can, and you're going to get eaten by the monster that you've been feeding the whole time. Sooner or later, like when you start feeding that monster, sooner or later, it's going to eat you next. It's better. You're better fighting it than
that was slightly my point with Wales, Northern Ireland, Gibraltar, Cornwall, even. That's growing, not to say it's significant enough at the moment, but Wales, you're stoking nationalism. That's what you're stoking. It's not even patriotism, it's nationalism. And there's a big difference between that, which they don't seem to understand. But then you've got, they were going around asking, where's all this anti-Semitism has come from? And you're going, your guy is going around making comments to other children when he was at school saying, gas them. You know, like, and then how the hell he had the gall to turn up there? Yeah. And then it's all right. Then he did the breaking point poster. I think I've got 17 minutes of footage for the last 2 years with Reform making racist allegations against them, or they're making racist statements. I think I've got about 20 minutes of Farage making racist comments. Yeah. But then they'll gaslight the public. Like Layla Cunningham will come on TV and go, well, I have this argument with people all the time, and they never have the specific thing that Nigel said that makes him a racist. And it's like, actually, if you knew what you were doing, you'd be able to find that instantly. And the breaking point post is the biggest one. Ended up killing an MP as a result. Yeah. He can fucking sue me if he wants. I don't give a fuck.
Cox. It was the same day. That he unveiled that poster. And everyone else suspended campaigning except for Farage's outfit.
Yep.
And they were still putting stuff out on social media late that day. That whole fucking referendum should have been abandoned at that point. It's only a
Yeah, of
fucking
course it
referendum.
should
It was only an advisory referendum. It wasn't life or death. It wasn't that important. Chris C, thank you very much for the £2 super chat for the backhander there. I call it BS. It was security. It was a backhander, he says, handing me £2. Thank you. And then we've got Viper Scott there with another £2, saying it's for Diz's confetti fix. Oh, you like feeding Diz hair confetti, don't you, Alistair? Thank you so much, sir. You are a legend, and independent Scotland and all that. Go.
I've got to disappear, but I did work out the numbers. So for his personal security, he seems to only ever have 2 goons around him. They're probably anywhere between 200 and 600 a day. That's the sort of going rate for private security. So if you said that was, all year round and everything else, you're probably talking about 120, 150k a year. Then you got his personal security cameras and all that. So that's probably, 15, 20 grand to do his property. So you're going, okay, so your total fee is about 150k for the first year, 120, maybe 150 in future years. And you need 5 million for that. It's such bullshit. And the press have just done an absolutely terrible job, because they should have brought that up and gone, well, hold on a minute. You're saying his security is needed to be pumped up. Well, how long is that going to last? That's what? A year is about 150. So we're talking for 1 million. It's about 8 years, isn't it? About that.
Yeah.
So they've paid for his security for the next
80 years.
70 years.
Well,
and then
the guy
that money.
The guy put another 10 million into reform anyway, didn't he? The year after.
But he put another 10 million into reform. But also don't forget, Nigel then stuck in 225k into Kwasi Kwarteng's cryptocurrency. And crypto, in my opinion, is just a Ponzi scheme.
He's just put 2 million in a cryptocurrency. Farage has.
I'll tell you the thing that triggers me on this, with this conversation, is that the clips that were going around about Farage getting the money. The speech that he did where he announced that he was going to be an MP, they replayed that basically, and in that speech he says, "I'm coming back for this election, but not just for this election. I'm back for 5 years." All right, but he clearly said just 5 years. And the thing that makes me think about this is I think he's taking a shot at trying to do a Trump. And trying to become the prime minister and then rip all the fucking money he can out of the system before he has to leave the country and go and live with Trump in Moscow, basically. And I think that's their plan. And I think we make this big error that we think these people want to run the world. They don't. They're fucking bored with it. They hate politics. They hate having to do any of this.
In it for the grift.
If you go
and I think
back...
Farage is looking at Trump's second term. Because Trump didn't know how to do this in the first term. He learned how to do this in his first term.
Yeah.
And now what he's doing is just taking the money from everybody around the world, and he's ready to go whenever he wants, because he's bored shitless, because all he wants to do is build a ballroom. That's all he wants to do, basically.
And a shit arch.
If you go back to fascists throughout history, like if you go back to the 1930s and 40s, like so much damage was done to the German and Italian war efforts simply by corruption. The fact was that the people in charge were robbing the country blind. If you build a far right government, generally there is, like, if you draw a Venn diagram between criminals and the far right, you get a circle. I think
you could just say the right on that one, Edward, because I went back to look at the speeches around the 1945 Labour government's announcement of the NHS and their plans, and they clearly outline in their manifesto that the Tory corruption during the war cannot be allowed to happen ever again. And I just looked at that and thought, that is not a story that we know of. And when you go back and start digging in, you find out that Tory ministers were pocketing money, and Labour ministers who were running the country at the time were calling them out constantly and trying to get them sacked and trying to get them moved around. And that's how they learnt to do government during the 5 years of the war. And they were ready to go in 1945 with a big plan. But their biggest selling point was, this government is corrupt and they've been stealing money while our soldiers fight abroad.
That's what got rid of Orban in the end, the corruption.
Yeah.
It was the corruption that killed him.
And that'll do it for Trump with Iran. And I think Farage is actually on a losing game here, because he's 5 years behind Trump.
Yeah.
And Trump will be the exemplar that we use to say Farage is just a shitty version of Trump. And we don't want that to happen to this country, do we, basically?
Yeah.
Gotta go.
Oh,
That's
Alex,
all.
cheerio,
Alex.
mate. Have a good night.
Pleasure.
Oh, I love you. Bye.
Bye.
Go find Alex's 17 minutes of Farage being
17
racist. It's a
minutes
good
of-
film.
Yes, it's very good. But yeah, the way it was reported in the Telegraph was that there was a firebomb attack on Farage's house 17 years ago or something, and therefore he needed this money. That was how it was reported in the Telegraph. Not that he was given the money by Chakrit Secundrit, this Thai billionaire
Known
who-
incorrectly as Christopher Harborn.
Christopher went to private school, Harborne, just
Did you see, talking of the Telegraph, did you see the door knocking video with Robert Jenrick and a local councillor? Have you seen that, Edward?
I have not seen this. Is it one of those
It's really
stage
good.
things?
It's a Telegraph video, right? Robert
Okay.
Jenrick, it's on YouTube. Robert Jenrick going around with a councillor who's had the Mar-a-Lago, I don't know where it is, but my guess, let's say it's the Essex version of a Mar-a-Lago face, right? And she's about 60 and thick as shit, as far as I could tell, basically. Just didn't have any of the right answers. Jenrick is looking concerned at her every time she talks to a voter. But the Telegraph played this out, which is she's talking to one white woman who's going, the end of her spiel was, I'm not a racist, but I'm increasingly becoming one. Right. And the councillor, the candidate, and Jenrick was nodding along to this. She was just feeding her with, well, it's the problem of them coming over in the boats, and it's the kind of people that are coming over, isn't it? And and Jenrick piles in and says, these young men coming from Afghanistan, they're not like us. They don't live like us. They haven't got our standards. And they're all agreeing with each other. Then they go and knock on the door of an immigrant, right? I don't know where he's from, but I think he's probably Middle Eastern. And they're all shocked, but the Telegraph carry on filming, and they completely change their line. She's basically saying, oh, it's not about you, and it's not about people from your country at all. It's about all the other ones. There's just too many, isn't there, really? And they're all lovely people, and we're very keen to integrate with you. You speak lovely English. And it was just a really clear example of they'll say anything to get elected. Even trying to get immigrants to vote for them, basically. And this guy did a great job. He was just standing there going, well, I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a religious at all. So, why have you got a problem with my culture? What culture are you talking about, basically?
Yeah.
It was good. It's a really good video.
had to I had to leave a few Indian groups this week because I was just on these Facebook groups with a bunch of Indian immigrants in the UK. They've all become so right-wing that it was just becoming intolerable to be there. And it's mostly the people who have been here for some time, who've been here for 10, 20 years. I have been here now for nearly 20 years, so somehow I haven't turned into one like that. But yeah, it's mostly the guys who've been here for a long time, or their parents were from India, or something like that.
Yeah.
But the
it
young
is a rocky
kids
road, though, Pranay, because we did notice
Yeah.
in the chat the other day that you just randomly started complaining about the weather, and we went, "Oh, you're totally British now, Pranay."
I know.
It's like-
That is British integration for you. I know. But thankfully, I'm not integrating with the far right yet. So that's good.
No, but it's
Yeah.
little steps towards voting for reform.
Thank
we
you,
were asking
Mike.
about
Yeah.
how many councillors, on the elections. It's 4,850 councillors. Perhaps.
On the number of councillors, here's a headline that we probably won't see, but you probably will, but probably should. And I'm, just saying this really carefully. Who is most likely to come out as the second largest party in local government after this year's local elections? It's not going to be Reform because there aren't enough seats up, and Labour won't stop being the biggest party
in England.
Yeah, well, in the UK. I'm hoping
who will be
my
the
stats are
second
correct.
biggest?
Yeah, who will be the second biggest party?
That's a seriously good question, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you have any idea who it is?
Well, it'd be
I
Labour,
guess
won't it,
it's
if they lose
probably
that
the
many
Tories,
seats?
isn't it?
No. The Tories are
Is it
currently the
it's
second
Lib
biggest.
Dems or Tories? Lib Dems.
Lib Dems. And I don't
makes
think you
sense.
will see any headlines talking about the Lib Dems becoming second biggest
no.
when that happens, because that, as bad as things will be for Labour, the Tories don't have to lose a lot of seats to become the second biggest to become the third biggest, to drop behind the Lib Dems. And I think there is, again, like this disconnect that has opened up in our politics between what should be or what people are interested in versus what's actually happening. And what's actually happening is, you've got to take your hat off to them. The Lib Dems can be very effective at winning local campaigns, especially by-elections. They are very good at getting integrated into local communities.
And
I don't agree with their
they're,
politics.
they're actually sometimes quite good at running a council. Actually,
I'm saying that with respect to someone who is not a Lib Dem and doesn't agree with all their politics. They're not left wing enough for me. But at the same time, like, they're not getting any attention in the news media at all.
No,
and I think it's not healthy that a party which is the third biggest in parliament and which is the second biggest in local government doesn't get asked any questions and doesn't get any spotlight. And actually, I've said it many, many times, and I'll say it again, and it's basically repeating what Phil would be saying in this situation. We'd be better off if the Lib Dems were the actual opposition, because they're asking sensible questions of the government and they're actually dealing with things. They actually ask questions about the way things actually work. Whereas, I feel that we're increasingly heading into a form of politics where people are talking culture wars and they're talking sort of fantasy politics. They're not actually talking about reality as we live it.
I think that's very true. I think they're a very ignored large lump in parliament, basically, and
it's not healthy for democracy to have such a big political party that's not getting scrutiny. I mean, Labour's getting scrutiny, Reform is getting that scrutiny, and Reform have 5 MPs.
I firmly believe that the best way to deal with all of this is for Labour to reach out to the Lib Dems and the Greens and the SNP and just say, look, there are more of us. There are always more of us, basically. The problem on the left is that we're so fragmented.
Yes.
The nice thing to see on the right at the moment is at least one split that's fragmenting them. But I think that's just a switcheroo. The votes are going to go Reform instead of Tory to a great extent. I think in a lot of places, I think that's going to be the case.
I have a question for a poll, which I'm going to start now. Would you team up with the Tories to keep V-fuck out? There you go. There's a poll question for you. There's a moral dilemma. I'm going to read something that Winston Churchill once said.
What is the context? But bear in mind, politicians don't do hypotheticals. What is the context for this scenario?
Like in the local elections, if you help the Tories out, it means that if you're in a very, very Tory seat, that it looks, or a Tory area, I should say, it's lots of seats, but
that's what they're trying to do in Claxton,
would people vote? Are you asking if people would tactically vote Tory to keep Reform?
Well, I said team up with Tory, so I mean, that could mean voting for them. It could mean going door knocking with them. Would they help out the Tories?
I think that's a fair.
Yeah, it's a fair question.
I think that's a fair tactic. Yeah.
It's a fair question. Now let me answer a quote piece by piece.
Okay, go on. Before you do that,
okay.
Winston Churchill once famously said, "If Hitler invaded hell, I would at least make a favourable reference to the devil in the House of Commons."
Okay. There's a question that no one has asked, but they should have done. We shouldn't forget that Restore Britain also exists. So Farage has invented his own problem. He's got the same problem. And he's got to worry about left and right as well. Look, in terms of would you work with or would you team up with the Tories? The Tories are less and less relevant as a political force in reality. I mean, they have still got, meaningful poll numbers, but they are residual, and it doesn't really feel like they're making advances. And, I think it's very telling that they continue to lose people to Reform. And there's sort of a cycling round where Tory people are defecting to the Greens or to the Lib Dems or to, they're defecting all over the place. And they're struggling to hold together as a meaningful political force. Where you've got them, it's where you've got a well-established group of people who've known each other for a very long time and they're hanging on through sheer local loyalty. That's what makes them relevant. So it's hard to look at groups like that and say, okay, they are just Tories, treat them like any other Tory. It's sort of different from the national picture. What I would say is, would Labour activists door knock alongside Tory activists? No, both parties have rules against that kind of thing. Would Labour activists ever say to someone, vote tactically for the Tories? Again, no, because they've got rules against that and they could get into very deep trouble for that. What would tend to happen, what's more likely to happen hypothetically, is where you get local parties that put effort where they've got the best chance of winning, because under first past the post, you're better off fighting the seats that you know that you're competitive in, and you're better off not putting effort in places that you're not. And party discipline in the run up to a local election campaign is really important. So what you would see is not necessarily collusion. You don't need collusion for this to happen, but you would nonetheless see like the Tories working areas where they are likely to win, Labour working areas where they are likely to win, Greens working areas where they're likely to win, etc.
We've done that. We've done that in Brighton Pavilion for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, the last election was the first time that we put up a decent candidate, our friend of the channel, Tom. But that became a pretty horrible experience, certainly for me, knocking on doors and a fight between us and the Greens, which was stupid. Basically, it was.
Well, before we go on, EDHD, thank you very much for the $5 Canadian. Don't know why I said that in an Australian accent. Saw an interview with a right wing Sikh. Brit for deportations. When told he'll be deported, he said that's fine with him, as the UK should be for the British. Wild. What the fuck? And in our refuck poll, which Hidden Knight says this poll is evil, and we've got other people saying it. Well, Ernie Burns describes this poll as the trolley problem, but involves eating poo.
That's a little harsh.
Can I just call out Chris C84? Thank you for saying, I just realised we're talking about damaging the internal organs of various people, and I totally forgot that Mike hasn't got any. I'm paraphrasing what he said, basically. But
you've got some internal. You've still got a heart, haven't you? You're not the Tin Man yet.
I was never there in the first place.
He's more machine now than man.
They went in to do surgery and went, hang on, there should be a heart there.
Cyborg Mike. So I've finished the poll.
Chris.
35. Thank you, Chris, for thinking of Mike. 35 votes. Yes, 74%. No, 26%.
Wow.
There you go. So three quarters of people watching this channel would team up with the Tories just to keep refuck out.
They tried it in Clacton.
I think I would as well, just to be quite frank. If I had to, I understand what you're saying when you're in a party, Ed, and like you've got to have party discipline, and maybe you'll take the foot off the gas in a particular area that you think the Tories should, you go for that area and we'll concentrate on a place that we can win. I totally get that, but
I'm being very careful with my words. The other thing I should probably say, which bears remembering, because this is not such a hypothetical scenario. Looking at something like Worcestershire County Council, Reform don't have a majority, and theoretically, if all the opposition parties, including Labour, teamed up, they could outnumber the Tories, and that number becomes easier to meet the more Reform splits itself up. So you could imagine, and this does happen very, very rarely, that you could have Labour and the Tories in the same administration in a local setting. It's incredibly rare. I think it's only happened a couple of times ever, but it has happened. Yeah. And if you're up against authority, in authorities where, for example, I think this happened in, I forget where it was now, the BNP were the party that they were trying to keep out of power. Yeah, you might see the two mainstream parties teaming up in that situation, but it's a pretty extreme outcome.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then, better the devil, I suppose. But all the lunatic Tories seem to have gone over to refuck, like Suella Braverman and Jenrick. Jenrick, who famously told them to paint over a mural of children's
Mickey
cartoon
Mouse.
Characters because it was too pleasant for the kids. What kind of fucking sick, deprived mind comes up with
just to add to that, because that brought up a thought this week. Maria is applying to be a Spanish citizen, and she had to go and take the citizenship test. And I have some experience of helping somebody do the British citizenship test. And so for a start, there's two things here. One is the Spanish citizenship test is so much better than ours, right? It genuinely doesn't ask you
what's it
who's
about?
the king.
What
in
do they
Spain,
ask?
it's entirely about the constitution and culture.
It's not about how many square foot London Bridge is. Come on.
Listen, I came up with an answer for this, which is the Spanish have got a fairly troubled history for the last few hundred years, and they kind of don't really want people to know about it. But that's fine, right?
True.
But ours
That
is
is
also similarly troubled, and yet you will be asked questions about a treaty in Wales in 1385 that nobody in England would be able to answer that question, basically.
Yeah.
And then the second thing about this immigration test is she sent me pictures of the posters in the immigration centre. And they are all, the world is made up of happier people when we all work together.
Yeah.
All of us are joining to become a better community and a better society and bring up children in a lovely world. Right? It's like walking into a I don't know, like a woke bloody nursery school. And I'm looking at these posters and going, this is awesome. Why are we not doing this? The Spanish are just positively encouraging people to do well, to encouraging them. And the test is, I'm not saying it's easy, but we revised it for a week, and like, I reckon I'd passed it, and I don't think I'd pass the British one every time, because there's just far too much history revision that you have to do to be able to answer questions about inbred kings from fucking Holland.
But I mean, we're not saying that things are perfect in Spain, but their economy's doing all right. They're putting a load of high-speed rail.
Sanchez
moving.
at the moment, the communists and the left wing in Spain are starting to adore Sanchez because he's standing up to Trump. Yeah. And I think that's what Starmer's message should be. This is the way you should deal with it. If you expose the corruption of Trump and link Farage to him, basically, that would be the best way to do it.
Because he's lost it with Trump now anyway, so just fuck it. And do you know what? I think Trump respects people more who talk back to him. You see this all the time. We saw this with Mondami in New York, but you also saw it with like J.D. Vance called him America's Hitler.
Yeah, you don't win. You don't win with a bully by appeasing them or trying to be nice to them. They just come back. No. And actually, I've got to say, in engaging with reform supporters and activists, one of the things I've learned is that being too nice, being too polite, actually backfires horribly. They don't respect being diplomatic. They respect strength. They respect courage. And so, in a sense, you have to be able and willing to stand up to them. And quite often, they'll come away feeling more able to trust you if they know that you actually stick up for something. And there is a certain brittleness to the way that reform has kind of built its coalition. I've had people who are serial trolls in my comment section who've come around and then gone, "Oh, but you've just said something I agreed with." And you can see the cogs starting to turn. But the thing is that first step for that was vigorously disagreeing with each other, but being able to disagree. It was a very interesting one. It's a very interesting one.
No, I think you're right. Right.
And to the point about Spain, Spain has been really excelling on the international stage in the last few years, I think. And I think part of it is, like Canada, they're kind of discovering this groove that exists, which I think we could go into as well, for middle powers, for countries which are democratic, which are liberal, which are, more open, more world-facing, more cosmopolitan, more accepting, which are just nicer places to live, and which can work together, and are not so big that they start getting imperial ambitions, but are also not, but also are big enough that they can club together and actually bully the bullies, which I think is a really cool concept.
That's the world that we absolutely should be joining. And sadly, I am not at all convinced that Starmer has it in him to be that guy. Basically, that's the problem.
But we're going to have to round it up in a moment. But before we do, Viper Scott, thank you so much for the £2 super chat. Saz, thank you for the £2 super chat. And Chris C, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. All in the space of just less than a minute. Thank you, everyone. And do you know what that means? You know that everyone knows what that means, right? Right? You ready?
We're going to have to dance, aren't we?
We're going to have to dance. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, confetti!
We complain about Farage dancing for money, and then we do it.
I'm a ginger dancing monkey, mate. I will do anything for money.
Well, are we getting paid? I don't think we're getting paid.
No. It's
that's the worst thing, Edward. We are just followers of our glorious leader.
Yeah, we're not even getting paid for this.
That £2 is going on good causes. Okay, crack, prostitutes, swans,
day trips to castle,
caviar.
I don't know.
No, only a castle. It's going to be my castle buying fund.
You got to do a humanitarian trip to the Maldives, Graham.
Do a humanitarian trip to the Maldives for some reason to say that they should have the islands that they'd never had.
Something like that.
Because reasons. It sounds a bit like Mauritius. Maybe he went to the airport and they went, "Where do you want to go?" And he goes, "I don't know. It's somewhere that begins with M in the Indian Ocean." And they went, "Oh, it's probably the Maldives." And he went, "Oh yeah, that'll do." And he turned up and he went, I don't know why I'm here. What's going on? And they said, say that they should have Diego Garcia. And he goes, who's Diego Garcia? Was he in The Mandalorian? It's like, no, it's a name of a place. Just say that you want. All right, then. And then he stands up in Parliament and he's like, Mauritius shouldn't have it. The Maldives should. And everyone's looking at each other going,
What?
When did this come into the equation? What? But there you go.
Hey, you know, one thing we haven't. I don't think it happened last week, did it? The King's Speech. What did you all think of that in
the film? It's all right.
No,
Didn't
in
deserve an
America.
Oscar. What?
You know which speech I'm talking about.
I thought he did a great job. It was very British. He had a dig at the president, and the president was too stupid to realise he was having a dig at him.
Yeah. Well, the whole of Congress, all the Republicans standing up and going, "Yeah, we definitely love checks and balances." Basically, and you go, "Well, do you?" I'm not sure.
It comes to something when the King of England has a stronger grasp of checks and balances than the US president.
I know.
George Washington is spinning.
I thought that was the Foreign Office working at their best,
Yeah.
basically, because that would have been an Yvette Cooper speech, wouldn't it? Basically.
What Angie Pagan's asking if Sarah Terry Pratchett should be on the national curriculum.
Definitely,
I'd buy that.
Yeah.
Douglas Adams, Tolkien.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to study English language as well as English literature, Tolkien's a fucking good place to start. Guy created languages, for God's sake. Idea for a production company named Confetti. Well, that's a pretty good one. It's still not as good as Biscuits.
Yeah. Sadly, I don't know if you were here at the beginning, Pygmalion, but the whole production company plan fell through because we're not allowed to call it Biscuits. So,
Biscuits. It's the greatest name for anything ever.
Could have been. Imagine the films
That's what
we
we should
could
call
have made
it.
if it wasn't for that major barrier.
Let's call it There Will Be Blood.
It.
Although, because that's already a movie. We just need something a bit like that. Do you know what I mean? We'll have a think about it. Pardon?
There will be biscuits.
There will. Oh, it's brilliant. I love it. There will be biscuits.
Perfect. Right, now we're
and
back
then people
on.
will watch the movie, and then they're like, "Where's the biscuits?" And we could pay people to turn up at the end of the film with biscuits. We're like, "Fuck it out!" And there was biscuits.
Pranay, the company exists now. Go and write 3 scripts for us, quick, basically. Make them with AI.
Great, get the AI onto it. Then again, I mean, Hollywood. I was talking this morning about how American dominance of our culture is all getting a bit much, and I do want to learn and see more of cultures from around the world. I hate the fact that I know infinitely more things about America than I do about Tunisia. Do you know what I mean? Because I've never seen a Tunisian film. I don't know anything about the fucking history, other than I've read in the book. Whereas America makes a movie about everything it does. Every month it makes a new movie. Here's something America did.
I've been watching a lot of Mexican films recently, and it's like eye-opening.
Good, aren't they? What have you watched?
Yeah. A whole world that you don't know. Well, I'll tell you a documentary I was watching the other day as well, which is on Netflix. It's about the new prosecutor that's been put in place to protect crimes against women. And the struggle they're having in a machismo culture, basically, to actually do this. She's quite an amazing character. But yeah, no, like once you start looking at any other culture, you realise that you are just an imperialist and an elitist English. You know, it's just been sunk into it. Like I knew nothing about South America's, Latin America's politics, really. Like just the vague top levels of things. And once you start digging into it, you start going, wow, the fucking French were everywhere, weren't they? Basically. And the Spanish don't get enough blame for what they did sometimes. We seem to take all the rap for imperialism around the world. And the Spanish were pretty awful people.
If we're ratting on people, don't forget the Dutch. They did their fair share. And even the Belgians got in on that.
Yeah, 3 things I hate. People who are prejudiced against other people. And the Dutch.
The Dutch.
So I think that one of the highlights for me from 2025 was when I went to Amsterdam, and I went to this relatively unknown museum called the World Museum. And that whole place is about the Dutch apologizing for all the genocides and
Wow.
crimes that happened under Dutch colonization. And I was shocked to
Yeah.
go in there and see all of that. And they have got a couple of floors of different places around the world. And I was also shocked to see India there because the Dutch were a tiny, tiny presence
Yeah.
in India, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, relative to
Well,
the
the Dutch
British and
East
the
India,
French and the
the Dutch East
Portuguese.
India Company was a pretty big operation.
Yeah, no.
We were-
So the Dutch East India Company began in India, but then they kind of divided up Asia, right? And the Dutch went to like Indonesia, and the French and Britain kept fighting in and like Portuguese had their own kind of dots around India as well. But yeah, it was pretty amazing.
But then also the other thing you discover that during that period, the Netherlands were run by Spain anyway. Like, so we always say
Were
the
they?
Dutch were the problem, basically, but
Yeah.
Spain ran the Netherlands for most of the period that we claimed our
Yeah.
imperialism, basically. It's
Complicated.
yeah.
Well, I think that in
the
general,
politics of Europe is something that we just go back to the Second World War most of the time, basically, and you go, oh no, there was politics before that as well. It's been going on for thousands of years.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
like one of the things I really notice traveling around is that Britain is far more advanced in its kind of knowledge and understanding of colonialism than European countries. You know, like for example, Indonesians in Holland, Netherlands, do not get the same recognition of what happened to their country that, for example, Indians or other people get in the UK. And we are far like ahead. We have a very long way to go, but
Yeah.
we have traveled a long way already. So
No, sometimes I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for how good we are at multiculturalism, because
No, we are.
the dialogue for the last 10 years, 15 years has been the opposite.
Yeah, I think it's been colored by all of these far right commentary and by Brexit especially, but right, you're right.
Anyway, on that note, should we call it a night, lads? Should we say?
Yeah.
It's a night. There you go. We just did it. But yeah, watch some more foreign films. They're always good. There's a really good film out called there's an Iranian film called It Was an Accident, and there's a South Korean film called No Other Choice, and they're kind of shit names for films, but they're really, really good films. They're both nominated for Oscars this year, but well worth checking out. Yeah, that's about it. I think, or go see The Devil Wears Prada 2. I don't care. It's up to you. It's up to you. Apparently, Anna Hathaway, the wife of William Shakespeare, her production company have bought the rights to a book that's just come out. I was reading about this today. And the book's only just come out, and they've got the film rights for it already. And it's about a trad wife who against her will, travels back in time to like the 1850s, where she has to be an actual trad wife.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. That's why they snapped it up, because they're like, yeah, that'll make a good film.
I like
especially
that.
in this
That's
climate.
nice.
So, yeah, do you know what? Should we do a film, right? And it's called like The Day of the Gammon, right? And it's about this fucking old gobshite, right? And he gets transported back in time into like the trenches in World War One, and he shits himself and dies.
I think we can do better class than that. I think we can do something more tasteful. I feel like it's more like we take a reform councillor who has AI generated a photo of himself wearing full metal Crusader armor, transport him into the era of the Crusades, so we can discover just how awful life was for medieval people. And also, the first thing that happens is a knight says, "Excuse me, squire, get out of my armor. That's mine. You didn't pay for it. You're going to be scrubbing that for the next 14 days."
Yes,
I'm liking that pitch.
I like that. It's better than my World War One thing, because that would have been over really quick. It'd only be like a 2-minute long film.
Yeah.
Just go back in time.
And the thing is, we kind of need an Act 3 that's got a bit of a redemption story of some sort in there for them, basically. They need to change. The character needs to progress.
Maybe it's a case of mistaken identity, because the Crusader has fallen out of time, right? And then the time police are after him. and they find this guy in 2026 who's dressed up like a crusader, and they're like, oh, he's obviously the guy.
Snatch him.
So they snatch him, take him back to 1347, and it turns out that no, it's not. But it doesn't matter because he's got to go and do a crusade,
and his life
armor.
totally has to be saved by 3 Muslims. Basically.
I was going to say that Saladin has to personally spare his life, because one of the undersold parts of the whole story is just how much Western Europe came to respect Saladin.
Yes,
and I think he needs to learn that.
Yeah.
Well, and the classic story of the Crusades is the number of, if you trace genealogy through that area, basically. The number of children of mixed cultures, basically, that were created.
There's probably circumstances.
So we've got the name of our production company, which has got to be Blood. Sorry, no, it's the other way around, isn't it? There will be biscuits. Sorry, there will be biscuits. And now we've got the idea for our first script. Brilliant, fantastic.
Perfect.
You see, been a productive evening. Thank you very much, everyone. So, listen, a big shout out to my co-hosts, Ed and Mike and Pranay. And thank you to Alex as well, who had to leave us a little earlier. Thanks so much to everyone in the chat. You're all bloody wonderful. I love the way everyone's really lovely to each other in the chat. They're all asking how each other are and having their own little conversations in the chat. Kate Nimbus is saying we could call it 28 gammons later. which I love. So listen, before we go, if you could give us a like, we would very much like that. Doesn't cost anything. Give us a like. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please use this opportunity to subscribe before we go. And if you are subscribed, please hit the bell notification icon. I'll be back at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning with a morning brew. And until then, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye. Bye.
Bye.